Welcome to very honored Frater BT's Esoterierd Podcast, episode 136, in which I'll be, not really interviewing, having a conversation with my old friend, very honored Frater RC for the 130 ABT. Oh, hey, Gwydion. That's kind of unexpected. Do you remember back, God, when was it? I guess it was about 10 years ago when I started Gwydion's Astral Podcast and just kind of let all those creative juices flow. And after a few months of that, you got inspired to start the Frater Podcast? Since you put it that way, and now that you mention it, I do remember that. It's almost like you owe me something, you know? Why do I feel like you want something? I don't, there hasn't been a whole lot going on Gwydion's Astral Podcast, honestly, since about 2017, although there are still some newer episodes if anybody wants to check it out. I wouldn't stop you, but I was just wondering if just to be a little different, if you'd mind if I took over for one episode of Esoterinerd Podcast and interviewed our old friend RC in your place. Oh, how cool! Yeah, that's a very novel idea. Yeah, sure. I'll just take the day off. I'll go, I don't know, do a opening by Watchtower, and you can fuck around and talk to our old friend. Nice, thanks. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. Okay, have fun, Gwydion. All right, well, I guess without further ado, let's get to that interview, shall we? Greetings, Frater.
Greetings.
Well, welcome back to the Esoterinerd Podcast. That's what I hear BT says sometimes. I don't know.
Thank you. It has definitely been a minute, and yeah, BT says a lot of things.
Talks out of his ass most of the time, kind of a relic of his former self. But you got me today, and I'm very much alive in present time. So,
well, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I never actually got to know you, and we've known each other a long time, so it's kind of odd. But yeah. I guess that's the normal way of things. When you know someone a long time, you inevitably miss entire phases of their life. I missed out on, your music live band stage was sort of happening when I met you, so I didn't be a part of that because I was underage, of course, and delicate.
You were in my other life. There was the first time I met you. It was already a clash of worlds for me. I came back from a gig with Fall from Eden. I might have told this story before on Esoterinerd, and we were all like, "Woo! The gig is finished. Let's smoke a bowl. Let's have some alcohol and look over on the couch." And there's these people, some of whom I knew, and then there was you with the long hair,
17-year-old kid.
Yeah. And you were looking at me like, what is going on? Is this?
I can actually tell. I remember that moment, like that whole evening. Like it's blazed into my memory because I was so hoping to see you again. Because I had met you the year before, but you were there just briefly with your mom, and I met your mom, and you were also young, along with P. Well, you guys were my age-ish, a bit.
Okay. You're misremembering. She was going out with Jason at that time, and I did not attend that Power Week at all. I did not go. I had
97.
Left. 97. Yeah, August 97. I did not go to the temple. But the person
I met you there.
He was dating another guy. You there. I was not there. I swear to Christ.
The last night of the event, you showed up briefly to pick someone up, to pick up your girlfriend, because she was there.
I had no girlfriend. Yeah, my girlfriend wasn't in the order at that time.
So when
you met her and someone else
that night. Okay, maybe,
Okay,
but
okay.
I don't think so. Agree to
Yeah, yeah.
disagree.
Okay,
But
okay.
the reason I would so here's another memory that I would say gives my first memory some credibility. We've
Right,
already
right.
started off in true Esoterinerd fashion. So the reason I was at your house that night in '98 when you came back from the gig was because the person I was
98,
staying
right.
with asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I'd love to go see the other young guy I met last year, and he's like, "Oh, you must mean Edward."
So I avoided the temple until
And so he took me to your house. That's
on
why I was there.
autumnal equinox of 1997 was my
No,
first
no,
time back at the temple for 6 months. I had stopped going after my Philosophus initiation in April and was very intentionally avoiding the place because I was sort of upset about how they treated my old proctor who went on to become an archbishop. They invaded his privacy and all kinds of stuff, and he was crying in my arms and everything. And so I was really pissed off at the old Robert, and
yeah.
company. And but
So
then she introduced me to that person you're remembering, Pete. And then I started coming back, starting with the autumnal equinox of. But maybe we met. I don't
98.
know, at some point.
I remember
97.
meeting you August of '97.
That's so strange. That was
I
when
know the
Pope
exact
Runyon
date.
came.
I have a diary entry about it right next to me
That's so trippy. So there was another
because I
BT, of
didn't
course,
miss a
John
diary,
Brawl.
man.
John Brawl was BT. Power Week of 97, she was dating. And well, anyway, regardless, the Gwydion thing came later.
I do let me at least say this because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
people are probably already checked out. I hope not because we're going to talk about some fun stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it was a big deal because I knew I had joined this group and everyone would be older and they didn't allow in people under 18 and I was in at 15. But then they told me when I was down there, actually, there's two other people here who were let in at 16, and that was you and
Right.
P. And P went through Zelator with me there and then you showed up the last day at the party when was turning into an after party closing time, and I was taken away, of course, because I had to go to my billet with Maria, the
Okay.
old Mexican
Okay.
Maria, and so and the and they didn't want me to be
Okay,
around
so
drinks, of
to be
course.
fair, on in August, I have like red puffy eyes and like fucked up face when you met me? I mean, like, what had I
I
been
don't recall
beaten
that.
severely?
Oh,
Okay, so
oh,
so
interesting.
if it was August and I hadn't been severely beaten recently, that means I was on a lot of drugs. So there is a chance that I might have gone there to pick up my mom, or something like that, if she had convinced me that this isn't an order thing, this is a party, it'll be good for you to see everybody, or something
Yeah,
like that. then
yeah,
then I might have
and
gone, because my memories of August of 97 are very sketch. Like, I wasn't
yeah.
sleeping. I was working full time. All my high school friends were about to go off to college, and someone got me a fucking full time job, which was weird, random, and so I wasn't sleeping. I was just literally popping Vibrant and drinking a lot, and so I was pretty fucked up in August, actually, of 97.
You were there. I met you briefly. I wanted to talk, but you guys were leaving. You, P, and your
Okay.
mom were leaving. And so we didn't get to talk. And when I was at your house in '98, when you walked in from your gig, you said hi to me. You remembered me. And I was no longer lower grade than you. I was in practicus. And I think you were
Right.
just about to go into philosophy, or you just had. But we hung out a lot from '98 onward. Of
Yeah.
course, we became family. So, yeah.
April, it was Aries of
It's
97.
so
I went
nice
up.
to
My plan was, because when my proctor was being kicked out or leaving, depending on who you asked, his last act in the order was to test me out of practicus, and I drank a lot, and I was a teenager, back then, and so my plan was, I'm going to go, because I didn't want to leave the order in practicus. I wanted to leave the order in philosophus. And so I got up to philosophus and then left with the intention of never going back. and then
Wow.
met P 6 months later. And it was pretty awful. While they were in their mandatory second order meeting, the temple work portion, the other BT had like snuck out, acting like he was going to the bathroom, went through my proctor's bags, got his personal notebook, his diary, went to Kinko's, copied it, as many times as there were people in the order, or copied the scandalous parts, and then distributed it to everybody. And they had a meeting without him there. Then they called him to come out to the temple, and then they were all looking at him, and they were all like, you wrote this in your diary. And he's like, okay, you guys are fucked for like reading my diary, and I'm on tribunal for what I wrote in my diary. And then they passed out. And then he said, was it, I'm going to ask everybody, was it right? I'm not going to ask you out loud because you're not going to say yes, or you're not going to admit that this was wrong in front of your leader. So I'm going to give little pieces of paper, and you tell me if this was the right thing to do. And everybody said no, except for one person said yes and no, and one person said yes, it was right to go through his personal stuff. And then he left, and then he came over, and my ex had stolen my journal, and I had gone through a similar thing. So he came to me and told me all about it, and was anyway, so I was like, fuck this place. That was the beginning of my like being like, fuck this place. And then from that point on, when I came back, there was what's the word when you have two minds on a subject, where you're so I was like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously, and I'm going to work the Golden Dawn system in spite of the fuckers who are trying to enact it. Like there's some, so there was this like two temples thing where there's like the heavenly Jerusalem and the earthly Jerusalem, the fuckers in the garage in Fontana versus the one true and holy Golden Dawn, which was the thing that I was intending to be a member of. So I thought of myself as superior to my teachers from that point forward, basically from, so that was, but that was maybe the seed origins of Gwydion. And then Gwydion ended up coming around later. It was a name given to me when I started having an illicit affair with a portal when I was in 5=6. And anyway, so she gave me the name Gwydion, and I called her Sophia.
Really?
Back and forth.
That's where Gwydion comes from?
Yeah. Originally.
See, finally we get to the question I asked you at the start of all of this.
Right.
We're nothing if not quixotic and tangential, are we?
And so then going on alt magic, I started using that as my pen name, and I used it as a name for poetry and all this stuff. Then John Brawl came out and said, the person writing as Gwydion is Edward Charles Reeve. His mother's Judith Evelyn Reeve. His dad's John Dan Reeve. He lives at 1442 Mount Pleasant. And so then like there was a point where on Griffin's forum, there were,
you are the host now. You are the host now. Behold the magical tool of the host.
I think I'm back. Yeah, I'm back.
I am the captain now.
So let me real quick, I'll finish this and then we can get to the main point for the people who are still here. My intention was to talk about that first, but anyway, so then years later, about 6 or 7 years later, I was completely, 100% in the cult. I mean, as far as like, I was Hierophant, I was teaching twice a week, I was teaching at my house, I was going to the Sunday meetings. There was very little room left. My life outside Golden Dawn basically consisted of, I had a job by then. So I was like really burning out again, like that 97 era where I was working full time, commuting and fully in the cult. And so like, then I would go out just to have a little bit of me time, I would go out after, whatever temple thing was going on and hang out. My best friend from high school was a bartender. So I would end up going to whatever bar he was working at, and we'd hang out till 4 a.m. I'd pass out on his couch, get up and go to work and do it all again. So I was like, again, very little sleep and trying to supplement with various chemicals and whatnot. And then I had a student who was like, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, nothing, not really. And so she started making me go out to Hollywood and, it was a platon, we were friends, and it was a positive rapport, I think. Probably inappropriate for teachers and students to be hanging out, socializing and getting drunk and stuff. But that was when I started wearing the hat. And that was when I started dissociating, and someone tried to kick me out of a bar, and I was like, "Do you know who I am?" And all this, and in particular, the day my grandma died, I took it very hard, and I was like, "I got to go out and party," and so I went out and we hung out, and I remember going to a speakeasy because no alcohol after 2 a.m. So everybody go to the speakeasy, and and it was like 3:30 in the morning. They wanted to throw me out for being drunk. And I'm like, you want to throw me out of your illegal institution? Like, what, by what authority? Like, do you know who I am? And all this. And so, yeah, I just kind of like had this other persona. And then you and I talked about last time when I ended up in jail. And so I was wearing a hat and drunk and in downtown LA when I ended up in jail. So that was when I deleted Gwydion.la. I created edwardreed.com, and then I started having dialogues between this pissed off normal person called Edward with no hat, who was like, Gwydion, you fucked my life up, and Gwydion would be like, what? I'm just doing my thing. And so that was the origin of the rapport between Edward and Gwydion. And then another 10 years later, I started Gwydion's Astral Podcast, and Edward and Gwydion would come on as two different voices. And then that carried over into chicken philosophy. So there you have it. So there's the origin of the Gwydion persona. It's a very, very long time.
Well, and, I love it.
Ever changing.
That's a great name.
There was a black hat, then a red hat. Now the hat is blue.
Yes, well, that's appropriate. You're in your blue phase. I'm in my red phase.
Nice.
Eventually, we'll all die and reach our pink phase.
Before everybody clicks away,
before we bury the lead in the underneath the pyramids, below the columns, and the ancient civilization that is awaiting to rise up and reconquer the world.
You've got a thing coming up.
I got a thing coming up, baby.
You've got a thing coming up.
It's coming up slowly. Remember that? Coming up slowly.
That's what she said.
Children. InnokiaCon, an epic lineup.
All right. This is the second or the third one?
The second one. Yeah.
Nice.
Attend the online cyber conference or come in person to Vancouver, Canada, the second annual Dean Kelly conference, InnokiaCon, 11th to 13th of July, 2025. It's always weird to say those dates. It's like, wait, don't you mean 2005? No, 2025, Vancouver, Canada. And a series of exclusive presentations on esotericism, magic, alchemy, and theurgy. An epic lineup. Join the Arcane Research Society to attend. Dr. Justin Sledge, Aaron Leach, Terry Burns, P.D. Newman, Daniel Rekshen, Chris Trenholm, David Litwa, Frater RC, David Rankine, Sasha Chato, Frater Eleftheria, Ike Baker, and visit the website for details. Go to inokiacon.com for more information. So, I was looking around as we came out of COVID and lockdown and saying, okay, like, I'd like to do a trip every year or two. What should I do?
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything that really made me excited to put aside, like, $3,000 to $5,000 a year to go do a fun thing.
Yeah.
Like, I just couldn't see anything that was like, there. It's like, I could go to this, but I'd rather save the money. I could go to this, but I'd rather save the money.
Yeah.
And I got sick and tired of presenting at conferences because I was just paying to go to a conference, travel, fly, pay the stuff. And they'd often promise recordings out of it, but I would never even get that. And so I was like, yeah, this is weird. That system seems broken. We could make it a little better. We can't fix it altogether
Yeah.
because we still live in a capitalist society. But
Right.
we can definitely make it better, especially if you're putting on a
Yeah.
conference that is, being built for itself. A lot of the conferences, people are doing it as a means of income, but what if you don't need that as a means of income? What if you're just
Right.
like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this a big thing? And so hopefully we'll grow. We've grown quite a bit this year from last year. Last year had to be online only because of my sister's sudden death. And this year is in
Right.
person and it's happening this week. It's very exciting and it's going to be a lot
This
of fun.
week, like right now,
It's like
like what day is the start?
Dr. Justin Sledge and Father Aaron Leach. Justin Sledge, of course, runs the massive online YouTube channel Esoterica, and
Okay.
Father Aaron Leach, of course, is a Gnostic priest and senior adept of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn
And
based
he
in
put
Florida, run
together
by
this
two
video of
sisters.
the Vault of the Adepti.
Christ and Buddha smiled upon the temple. Rose and Chris sent out his blessings too.
All right. They just saw that video. And Brian Dahl from episode 23 was the music that he used in the background. So
Oh, cool.
if I can
Gotta go to
find
episode
that, I'm
23.
remembering it from 10 to 15 years ago. Hopefully it's still online somewhere. The virtual vault
Yeah.
video.
Yeah.
Aaron Leach made that one,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
I
that's
think
where I
I
know the
don't
name
I,
from.
yeah. Yeah. So it'll be great to have all these Enochian practitioners and scholars here, but it's a general esotericism conference just with a theme, and we might change the theme in a few
So
years.
today's the 7th, right? Or is it today's the 6th for
Today's
you?
the 6th for me. Yeah.
So, and it's Monday for me, it's Sunday for you. What day this week is the conference starting?
Friday. It starts Friday.
Friday. Okay, so everybody, you still got some time. Can Americans go to Canada without a visa? That you don't need a visa for
Yes.
Canada, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
but you need a passport,
You
right?
do need a passport, thanks to George Bush.
Okay, so Americans with passports, you can do a road trip. You can head on over. When you get to the border, tell them you're a member of an international secret society and you refuse to answer their questions.
Dude, how many people though literally said that when they were coming to our events in LA or Vancouver over the years? Remember, people would be like, they'd call us.
I
Like,
think it was just me.
I've been turned. No, you. So many people would say,
I wasn't the only one.
I'm part of it. They'd be like, I'm going to visit a temple there, a secret temple. It's like,
and then I tried again. I went back and they were like, "What are you coming here for?" And I said, "Tourism." And they were like, "So what are you going to do with your tourism?" I'm like, this and that, see things. I don't know, maybe see a movie. They're like, "Oh, wait here." And then they went and saw the records of last night. He tried to show up and said he was a member of an international secret society and they refused to answer our questions. And then you had to come up with a letter on the spot and then drive it down and hand it to me so that I could show it to them.
I
and
did.
everything.
I did. I had to head out to the border at 6 a.m. But that's par for the course. And remember, I told you I was
Right.
like, okay. I actually even told you I was like, hey, no, it's magic that's going to get us across. So I told you to go do a certain ritual over there that I didn't know, but I knew of it. So I was like, go do that ritual, and you went and did it, and then we drove through no problem.
Nice.
And I
nice.
saw the glitch on the guards. I saw the guard glitch out in front of me. I saw the guard glitch out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, hardcore.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, hardcore. He asked for passports and he asked for a driver's license and ID from me, and I gave that to him. He gave it back. He said, "Okay, I need everyone else's." Actually, never mind. But he paused. It was like it was a total as close to a Matrix glitch as you're ever going to see.
Right, because there was that. I'll cut that part out. No, but you shouldn't have any problem getting across the border. What should they say when they say so, business or pleasure? What are you coming here for? What are you going to be doing
Well,
in
it depends
Vancouver?
if the person's on a business trip, they can say so. If they're doing, you're allowed to come for either reason. The only thing you can't do is come work here, right? Business and or pleasure
Mm,
is
mm.
is free pass.
Right,
Yeah, that's why we can't
right,
pay any of our presenters. It's illegal.
right.
But
Oh, okay,
you
okay.
can do you can do like bursaries for travel expenses and stuff. We're doing the same model that every academic society does because that's the only legal way to do it. And I've talked to my lawyer and
Right.
accountant about this. And so yeah, no, you can't pay
Okay.
anyone, unfortunately.
Everything's
And
above
that's life.
board.
That's life. That's life. Yeah, you got to, of course, of
Or
course.
they can attend online. So for the people who don't want to do a road trip up to Vancouver on before Friday, they can attend online. And it's how many days?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
All right. Cool.
They can attend
That's a lot of
afterward as
guests.
well. It just won't be live.
Right, right.
Yeah, there's like
Okay.
three
Cool.
presentations Sunday, four presentations, 3 presentations Friday, 4 presentations Sunday, and 4 or 5 presentations Saturday. Yeah, and then Justin Sledge. So
Nice.
we've got some. British Columbia has 2 really cool locally brewed absinthes, Baba Yaga and psychedelic jellyfish. So we've got those, and
Hmm.
we have all the decanters and stuff. And this is for Justin. We're only doing this for Justin. But Dr. Sledge, he does a lot of videos on absinthe, and I think him and his brother actually played a role in getting it legalized in the United States. So he can
Oh,
do a
how
little talk
cool.
about that, and everyone can sample a tiny amount of the local British Columbia absinthe. He might not consider them official absinthes, and that's okay. There's nothing we can do about that. But hey,
Right.
they are pretty good. I have sampled them, and they're okay. I can't really do absinthe since I was in my 20s, honestly, but if you make a
Hmm.
cocktail out of it, I think it's okay. But they're actually very nice. They're very nice. So we'll have that, and we'll have some music on Saturday evening, and then Sunday evening we're having a birthday party for John D after the final lecture, and because it's on his
Nice.
birthday, July 13th is his birthday, and in 2027 we're planning on doing that in Prague and having a big 500th birthday party for John D.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah,
500.
yeah,
That's
yeah, and
this
next
year
year
he's
will
turning
be
500.
2027.
Oh, 2027. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Huh.
and
That's
next year
wild.
we'll be doing it in the States in probably October over Halloween for Edward Kelly's death date, and so we'll have a at the end of it we'll have a wake
Mm,
for Edward Kelly.
mm, mm.
Yeah, themes are fun,
So,
but we have a
we're
wide
going to
range of
do
academic presentations.
a little bit of crossover here. So this next part will, of course, be in the Esoterinerd episode as per normal, but it's also going to be included in the a future chicken philosophy episode. So could you settle a debate that Edward and I have been having on chicken philosophy? He seems to think that I shouldn't be running my mouth off about how all the esoteric Christian traditions that have been around for longer than 80 years, as far as their Christianity goes, it's drawing from Orthodox Christianity, i.e., Nicene Creed, based Christianity, and not any form of like demiurge, Yahweh's the devil, Sophia's got a thing happening. Because what happens is people come from a Gnostic background in present day. They read Talmalachi and a little bit of Nag Hammadi, and then they join an esoteric Christian order, assuming that it's going to be Gnostic. Then they get disappointed when they come in here and people are using a lot of the same language that they hear from the letters of Paul and all this other stuff. So can you help expand the scope perhaps of the conversation and maybe it's just a false dichotomy and it's a dumb way of putting it, but I mean and it's a question of like, what are we talking about? Martinism, okay, well there's Kabbalah in it, but their Christian assumptions seem to be based in Orthodox, baptism, communion, the Trinity, all these Orthodox staples, as opposed to anything that you would find in any of the various schools of thought that could be considered esoteric Christianity in the context of the Nag Hammadi and like the early, heretical, according to Arrhenius and Athanasius and them. So anyway, sorry, I said too much. What are your thoughts on all that?
Can we start with one part of that?
Did you? Oh,
can we start with one? Part of that?
Sure.
Which part?
However you want
to start with.
Oh God, I don't know.
Break it down for me.
Okay. So esoteric Christianity.
The reason I can't just ramble on it is because it's not my area. Esoteric Christianity is actually not my area. My area is Christianity and Hermetism, which is not strictly speaking Christianity. And then again, the history of esotericism more generally. So I can speak to esotericism in Christianity, but like when you talk about Gnostic groups and esoteric Christian groups, I don't know much about what those would be or what would be considered to be those. I don't know much about Martinism. I've had basically no contact with it, except having friends in it. And I
guess what it is,
everyone thinks a lot of people think that the Golden Dawn or our tradition is Gnostic. It's Gnostic. Not really. It's not. Yeah. It's got gnosis in it, but it's Hermetic, and that's not the same as Gnosticism. And so that's why.
Okay. Let's start there. About it that we don't. What's the difference between what's the difference between Hermetism and Hermeticism?
That's an easy one. So the words are often used to mean each other, so that confuses things. Right. But I think scholars who are being responsible draw a distinction between Hermetism, referring to the original communities that produced the Hermetica texts in 3rd century Alexandria, so Zosimos of Panopolis and all of those people. Though it's debated, of course, whether or not there was a community or whether that was any kind of a codified path of spirituality. It really is debated. But Hermetism refers to that. Hermeticism refers to the resurgence of Hermetism in the Renaissance, because Ficino did a very sloppy translation of the Hermetica for the De Medicis, and he made some huge errors in that really changed the entire complete. Imagine if Jesus had said not turn the other cheek, but kill them all.
Right.
That's what Ficino did to the Hermetica. Ficino botched the Hermetica so bad that the Hermetica should say that you basically have to go beyond reason for ultimate knowledge of higher consciousness, but Ficino translated it to do that. You cannot go beyond reason. Basically, there's a whole academic essay that covers it. I've covered it on my podcast. I don't recall, but it's probably called Hermetism and Hermeticism. But yeah, so Hermetism.
Sidebar.
Hermetism think 3rd century Alexandria. Hermeticism think the confluence of all these other magical, alchemical, and mystical traditions out of the Middle Ages converging in the Renaissance on the culture created around Ficino.
Right. So there's going to be some other stuff mixed in. So am I correct in assuming that the Hermeticism that came together in the Renaissance might have had other elements like Kabbalah and whatever else? Rosicrucian. Rosicrucian came later, I guess. Well, it depends on whether you take the Fama literally or not, but
Rosicrucianism definitely is Hermeticism for sure, and it's very Hermetist. It's very, very deeply drawing on major themes and language from the original 3rd century Hermetica, for sure, and it was birthed by the creation of Hermeticism in the Renaissance. Right. It definitely grew. It was the seed. Hermeticism was the seed that birthed Rosicrucianism.
When I interviewed Frater Quasar, I did it in the living room right next to the Wi-Fi source. and I'm insisting on doing this in my office, which is the farthest away from the Wi-Fi as you can get. But I'm also using the hotspot of my phone and stuff. So sorry about the interruption. Okay, so Hermeticism. Okay. So esoteric Christianity. That's a subject you're not as familiar with.
I know different amounts depending on when and where you're talking about it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
me
could I
too.
speak to what you consider? I could speak better to what you might consider the early forms of esoteric Christianity vis-a-vis Gnosticisms, which were
Right.
Christianities.
But then
Right.
those
Like,
were,
actually,
but then like, so I haven't looked into this, but there's this idea that, Mary Magdalene like brought all the knowledge with her and got in a boat and went to the south of France. And there's an unbroken lineage between her and some Gnostic society today. I raise an eyebrow at that, and I don't even know really what I'm even referring to. Like, is that Holy Blood, Holy Grail, Dan Brown shit, or
yeah,
is that the
that.
origin story of an actual organization, or what?
I think a lot of that stuff might have probably came out of, more recently Masonry and Masonic stories,
Okay,
maybe going back to Knights Templar stuff, for sure. But I don't know
right.
really the
But now the
provenance
Knights
of all of
Templar
those
were a
things.
fully Orthodox Catholic group of thugs originally who went to go guard the pilgrimage trail so Christians could go to Jerusalem and back, without getting themselves unalived, right? And then they were there for 80 years under King Baldwin and another King Baldwin, or right, and so like the Romans or whatever, the Catholics like had Jerusalem for 80 years. And then when Saladin, right, took it back, or, took it, whatever, however you want to frame the Islamization of that region, however many hundreds of years ago that was, right? 1,000 years, 900 years, 800 years, whenever it was. So, okay, what are we talking about? So then the Templars, the idea is they had all this extra knowledge. They had learned a bunch of stuff while they were in the Middle East. They got on boats and flew the Jolly Roger. They loaned money to the French king, and he was in their debt, and he tried to tax the people, but the Templars refused to pay the taxes because, hey, you owe us money. And then suddenly they're declared devil worshippers by the Pope, who's the cousin of the French king. And then on Friday, the 13th of October of 1307, everything goes to hell for the Templars, right? That's basically it, right?
Yeah, though I wouldn't say they were thugs. What I know of them is
Initially,
that they
it was 6 guys who
no
wanted to guard the.
initially, my understanding is they developed like the Knights Hospitallers as the early version of a kind of police force to protect travelers on the road. Then,
Right.
because they were so
Cops.
safe,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
became bankers, ad hoc
Mm.
bankers, because
Mm.
you could give money to one Templar place and securely take a note to the next one and be given the money.
Right.
So that's interesting. But yeah,
Yeah.
as to the Templars' mystical stuff and their connection to mystical Christianity, I'm not the guy for that, really. I wish I was,
Yeah.
but
There's
do I
rumors
wish
about
I
it.
was? I don't know.
I used to
Yeah.
perpetuate, like, I used to be like, I'm going to close my eyes and roll my eyes back and just channel knowledge. I used to go there, about the Templars and stuff. I'm pretty sure that that was something 1,000 years ago. You could, someone could write you a check in Spain. And then, I mean, before it was Catholic, and then you could travel to Saudi Arabia and cash the check. And that was going on before the Templars existed. So that was back when civilization was something to describe North Africa and the Middle East that didn't apply to Europe. It was a word that fit better there than there. But then the Templars borrowed that. But then that ended up being something that the Jewish folk, I'll say, rather than shortening it, because we love the Jewish folk, right? Ended up with a reputation for being bankers and all this other stuff. And supposedly it was because the Christians weren't allowed, their religion forbade them to charge. But then the Jewish folks will say they didn't charge interest, or it's forbidden to charge interest, or the people who charged interest were going against the Deuteronomy or whatever. But it was a reputation they had. But it seems to me that because there were so many Jewish folks living in North Africa, and because the Muslims had banking already, then they just were familiar with it. And then they came across to Europe and were like, "Hey, you crazy, Europeans! There's this concept called banking. If you want, I can loan you money and this kind of thing." So. I don't know what I'm talking about or what the point is.
I think you've captured the entire story with every possible nuance.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, what else can people expect?
Well, then you have a bunch of German farmers getting the Bible thanks to Martin Luther for the first time, and reading the Book of Revelation and reading Martin Luther's commentary about how evil the Jews are, and then reading out of context various parts of the newly translated Bible, and then deciding that there's this crazy apocalyptic situation that they're in, and it all has something to do with the Jewish folks, and banking is evil. Jesus said, render unto Caesar, and turned over some tables and everything. So therefore, Karl Marx, grew out of Martin Lutherism, right?
And
Germans.
The world's been a utopia ever since.
Fucking Germans.
Hey, man, they're having a rough time right now. If I don't know if you noticed.
Oh,
their country's going to collapse probably in the next 20 years.
Oh, they'll be okay. They were on top of their shit. Weren't they running the world not too long ago, or somebody accused them of that?
Yeah, and then someone blew up their pipeline.
Oh, damn it. But aside from Germany, I don't want to get too far.
Kind mehr power for you. You're back to coal because we say so.
Yeah. Oh, man. That sucks.
Yeah, okay. Everyone I know in Germany is like, it's not even safe to go on the street anymore.
Hermeticism and Hermeticism. Hermeticism. Now, we were in a Hermetic order, and so the thing is, what I like to try to do, one of the things I try to slowly do over the course of time in, for example, chicken philosophy, is I feel like someone gave me a bowl of fried rice, right? And I don't know what kind of oil went into it. I don't know what kind of rice it is. I don't know where the carrots are from. I don't know if they're carrots. There's a bunch of little colorful things in it. It's all mixed up. I know how it tastes. I can stick a spoon in it and give someone a spoonful of it, but I don't know what rice is. I don't know what carrots are. You know what I mean? And so Hermeticism is different from Kabbalah, right? And Kabbalah in Rabbi Berg's, Kabbalah Center is different from Kabbalah according to, the Jesuits or whatever. Like Athanasius Kircher was a Jesuit who drew our tree of life we use, right? And
Kircher actually didn't create that tree.
Well, he drew it.
No, he got it from someone else.
Right. Yeah. Well, the version he amended it slightly, but I'm pretty sure the standard version. No. Oh.
No. I found out that from Dr. Terry Burns, who's presenting at a NokiaCon for the second year in the row. Dr. Burns, she has a wonderful 50-hour course free on YouTube on the Monas Hieroglyphica.
Right.
I recommend everyone take that 50-hour course, not just once.
And you get it for free, and you don't have to pay $1,500 if you sign up for the conference, right?
Oh, brother, I got to tell you, no, this course is free on YouTube forever, but you get a whole different course if you join the conference this year before Sunday, Sunday, 7. So this other course is a full undergraduate level course. I'm so glad you asked. Is a full undergraduate level course that other universities and programs and other similar groups wanted, but none of them were willing to really give any kind of a reasonable or fair deal for it. And so I was like, well, you can Yeah. I was like, I negotiated a deal. How about instead of any cut, we just give it to everyone this year for free, make a big deal out of it, give everyone a chance to get it for basically nothing. And then after that, I'll keep promoting it on and on throughout the years and doing the, and it just all goes to
Now, what
Dr.
does that
Chato.
course include? Let's say I'm a guy who's got, just got an inheritance. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but I've got exactly $1,500 in my bank account. Why would I be interested in this, assuming that I'm watching this a month from now and I missed my opportunity to get it for free as part of the conference?
So if you become a member, which you can do by attending, basically paying dues and attending either year 2024 or 2025, whichever, paying dues gets you access to everything that year.
Okay.
So you can pay dues for any year and then you're a lifelong member. We have to
and
do
dues are like
memberships
$500 a month or
no, God no, God no, no. It's $350 US a year.
Okay,
and that's
$350 a year. That breaks
US
down to
and
like 20 a month or something, like 25 a month.
Yeah, it's a bit more than that. But so then this Dr. Chato's course, her Introduction to the Academic Study of Western Esotericism, that's 40 something hours of modules. We're having live sessions every month when it starts in November. And it's an undergraduate year-long level course. It should be like $4,000 or $5,000 US, but instead it's 2,000 Canadian or 1,500 Canadian for members, and it's free for everyone who signs up for EnokiaCon before it ends.
The link is in the description. The link is in the description.
Okay, and so it's an amazing, I'm very, very pleased. The plan is, since we have to do this whole thing through annual memberships so that we can be an international organization like all these other academic groups are, because we have to do it that way, it's like, why not create as much benefit as possible to everyone? So we even have I'm doing a fall workshop that's free, that all members will get for free in the fall. Then Rufus Opus and I are doing a full day workshop in the winter. Everyone will get for free, and that's a full half day with him of Goetia, because he's a Goetic guy. He wrote the Goetic Grimoire. He wrote 7 Circles, and he's a lovely guy, a great wife, and we're gonna have fun doing a full day workshop. Half day Goetia with him, half day Enochian with me, and so we're just piling on more and more stuff and giving people as much as they can. And what's happened surprisingly, when Dr. Chato decided to get on board and really team up with me and Dr. Burns and everyone else involved who wants to be involved, adding that course really made me realize that the society isn't just going to be in a society that's dedicated first and foremost to bringing people together in person, because that is what my eagle eyes see. If I were Legolas in the distance, is what we need. In-person connections. We're just going to get more digital. Soon we're going to be able to prance around. I think we already can prance around in the metaverse or whatever, doing whatever we want with, as Thoth or
with those Oakley or Ray-Ban virtual reality goggles.
Augmented reality is going to change the game. The whole game is changing. The thing that we're going to need the most, I believe, is in-person connections, communication, events, and experiences. I think that's what we're gonna, and I know that because I'm a musician. And as a musician, I always knew that that's the one thing that really can't die. You can't fabricate the experience of real life people on stage shredding on a banjo. That's just can't. True. It's hardcore. There's blood. There's stomping of boots, there's screaming, there's wailing, and there's lots of dancing and gnashing of teeth and tearing of hair. And that's why you're there, because some guy plays the banjo that good. It's, apocalyptically good. And it happens. It's real. I've seen it. I've seen a guy with the concertina in Ireland at a show, and I went to see him because he's a pro and one of the best. And my friends all took me to see him, and I was like, where's the rest of his band? Doesn't need a band. So it's just one guy with that little, it's like a mini accordion, right? A little concertina between his hands, and it's just him. And I was like, holy shit. At the time, the hour flew by like that, and we're screaming in between I couldn't believe the performance level he was able to deliver. And and you need to be in a room with someone with the dim lights and the candles on the table. I was at the Roisin Duv before they renovated it in Galway, and it was just like he got your blood boiling within 30 seconds of the first tune, you're like, what the fuck are his hands doing? I don't understand how he can do that well, but
Nice.
holy shit, he's going to make some woman really happy someday.
So tying it back in, because we went off on a tangent, it was a good tangent, but I want to come back to if somebody asked a younger me, what is Hermeticism? I might rattle off some stuff about the tree of life, about Kabbalah, about alchemy, about Golden Dawn grades, about all this other stuff, and probably only some of it has anything to do with Hermetism, for instance, though Hermeticism might have its own definition that includes elements of other, with the fried rice. So, like, if Hermetism is rice itself uncooked, and Hermeticism is duck fried rice from down the street.
I like that. That actually works really well. That works really well. So, if Hermetism is the rice, Hermeticism is the version of it where you put anything else on it you want.
Yeah. Okay. So I wouldn't really be wrong to talk about the grades of the Golden Dawn and the Tree of Life if somebody asked me about Hermeticism. Not really.
It's just as Hermeticism as anything else that happened since the Renaissance, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you wanted to be really pedantic academically, you would say you can't be a Hermetist today because that's a specific socio-cultural group that existed.
Like you can't be a pre-sectarian early Buddhist because the definition of that is Lord Buddha sitting there instructing you, but like you can be a Theravadan, and then you're working according to ideas put forth in the Third Council under King Ashoka, and that kind of thing. And the orange robe guys in Sri Lanka and Burma is as close as you can get to being a pre-sectarian early Buddhist, but you can't actually, you can try, you can do your best, you can hold a compass and have it point toward pre-sectarian early Buddhism, but you can never really arrive without a time machine. It's kind of like that. So to be a Hermetist is kind of like that.
Gwydion, your mastery of the language beggars that fool Edward Reeb.
So, okay. All right. So, but Gnosticism.
Another way of saying it is you and I can't be boomers because we're Gen X.
Right. Yeah. So Gnosticism is not the same as Hermetism or Hermeticism.
Well, Gnosticism really at best is a general term to describe, to encapsulate a variety of Gnosticisms. And Dr. David Litwa, who I did the recent Hermetica 1 book on Audible for, and that book is amazing. I got to tell you about it later. But he's presenting at the conference too on Gnosis and politics, which will be fascinating. It'll be fascinating. He's down in Australia. He teaches, because I study a lot with him, he teaches that he doesn't really, I think, and I don't want to misrepresent you, David, but I'll do the best I can, sir. Not that he will watch this, but in case, I want to. He really seems to have a dislike of people referring to Gnostics as Gnostics. He's like, why are we calling them Gnostics? They didn't call themselves Gnostics. They didn't think they were Gnostics.
Right.
And everyone, of course, is like, well, what did they think they were? He's like, Christians.
Right. Dogen has a similar thing with the Zen. People talk about the Zen sect of Buddhism, and Dogen, who brought Zen to Japan from China, is saying, fuck off with your Zen sect. This is Buddhism. This is what, when Lord Buddha picked up the flower and Mahakasyapa smiled, that's Buddhism. All that other shit isn't Buddhism. So what we're doing here, is real Buddhism. So he's kind of like that. I mean, a little bit.
And you want to know what's more? Here's something I'm going to try not to sit on things for you and give you the good stuff. So one of the things, the big questions that I've always been asking, and I recently found out that other people have been asking it too for a long time, like John Michael Greer, who has been getting so much hate lately. It made me actually listen to a couple of his podcasts. So I was like, why is everyone hating on this druid who edited the 7th edition of Rigardi's Golden Dawn? So I actually did watch some of his podcasts, and he does say some wild stuff about Trump being like a solar god who's even orange and all that stuff. It's wild. He also thinks society's going to fall apart and nature's going to come back. And I don't know, maybe.
Eventually. Yeah.
I mean,
Probably.
on a long enough timeline, right? But
Yeah.
anyway, so he said he was looking in the 90s and 80s for people who wanted to reconnect the Golden Dawn tradition to original Hermetism, and or at least the Renaissance Hermeticism, because of course in the 80s and 90s we knew even less about Hermetism than we do now. We know so
Right.
much more now.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, and we're learning more by the day.
Mm.
So he wanted to do that, and that's something that I thought that was really cool that he was looking people to do that, because I've always been really interested in asking the question, how hermetic is the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn?
Mm.
And I'm very pleased to now say, because my answer in the past was always not very. Come on, get real. No, I've changed my answer. Never let it be said I can't be convinced I'm wrong. That's why you got to state your opinion so strongly, so that when you do change your mind, you know it's for real, and you put your best leg forward, and then you feel the relief of like, wow, I've actually learned something. Wow. So the thing I can say now is it's shocking how hermetic the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn is. Like, there was many years in which I was like, they should just stop calling it the hermetic at all. Like, but then again, through people like Christian Bull's work, Dr. Litwin, shout out to Wouter Hanegraaff, Professor Wouter Hanegraaff, who runs and created the Hermetic Studies Department at University of Amsterdam. God bless you, sir. His book, Hermetic Spirituality, is a revelation. Even if he might be wrong about a few things, who cares? Like, it's a juggernaut that blasted open the wall saying Hermetica or Hermetic philosophy is not Hermetic philosophy. It's Hermetic spirituality. And he said that when he published his book. And I was very pleased to hear that, because a few years earlier, I'd published a book called Introduction to Hermetic Spirituality. So it was nice to see an academic being like, yep, he was right, even though he probably never saw my book and didn't know it existed. But it's like, and it was a horrible book. I should need to revise that thing. But it was really an essay I wrote for
I too have published horrible books.
I'll read you some of your poetry later, but it's not horrible at all. It's fucking amazing.
So, okay, Hermeticism. I had a thought earlier. Hermetism. Okay, hermetically sealed jars. Sometimes if you ask a newbie, what is hermetic? Well, because we take an oath of secrecy. And it's a hermetically sealed jar. The order is hermetic because we take an oath of secrecy. Like, okay, that's pretty basic. And then, well, hermetic because Hermes, because of the god Hermes. Okay, so can you describe for us a little bit the Vesica Pisces, the overlap, the Venn diagram between hermetically sealed jars, Hermes, and Hermeticism?
Sure. So I don't actually know the exact, or I can totally answer this. As soon as you got off like Gnosticisms, I'm in my wheelhouse now. I wish I could say I am learning more about Gnosticism and the late Platonic writers, because I'm studying with Dr. David Litwa, hopefully prepping to actually finally finish my PhD before I turn 60, maybe.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 50, then I was like, let's be realistic, dude. Let's be realistic. One day I would love to do that, because it's a fun process, and it's hard as a person with a mind to be actually challenged authentically in this world, unless of course you turn on the news.
The slight deviation. The thing that bugs me is, I mean, there was like, okay, when you ask your priest when you're a little kid, how come God was so mean in the Old Testament if he's love and everything and Jesus and all that? And they say, well, because we changed, so God changed in relation to us, his relation, and they come up with something where it's still the same God. The God that was the burning bush, the God that flooded Noah and everything is still the God, the same Jesus that was crucified. That's his son. They're the same essence. Okay, thank you, priest. And then the Gnostics come along and say, that old God that showed up, and Moses and Noah and all this stuff, even Genesis, the God that came along and said, I'm going to create heaven and earth and all things seen and unseen. That's the demiurge. That's Abraxas. He's a fucker, and he's not the real God. The real God is from the heavens above, far above any mean person with commandments who gets jealous of other gods. And that's the one that was incarnated as Jesus to tell everybody, hey, these Jews are wrong. You need to follow me and the Greeks. And it's like, okay, back up a little bit. Like, I think that, for one thing, it's not, I can't have a conversation with somebody who doesn't share some basic like terminology and reality. And if I'm trying to make a point and then I mention Yod He Vav He and they say, oh, well, Yod He Vav He is, well, that's the demiurge or whatever, then we're in, like L. Ron Hubbard would call that a reality break. You can't have a conversation with somebody if you're not in the same reality. And so that's the disappointment, the emotional charge behind it is because when I first heard about Gnosticism, I was like, oh, this sounds great. This is my thing. I am a Gnostic Christian. I believe that through these initiation processes, I too will become Osirified, Christos, and that's all very Gnostic, isn't it? And then someone comes along, yeah, but don't forget the demiurge and all this stuff. And it's like, well, Chaldean oracles, the second mind that all races of men call first, that's the demiurge, right? The serpent's Leviathan that comes up, the highest head of the serpent, it takes its place in Da'at and barfs out something, and then Crowley thinks it's his higher self. That's the demiurge, right? And it's like, are all these things the same, or are you on acid?
I can absolutely answer all of that, including your previous questions, very quickly.
Oh, good.
Do you want the short answer?
Yeah,
medium
sure.
Answer or the long answer?
Short one first, then medium.
Short one first. All right. Hermetic. Don't know why it refers to a sealed container. Probably because Hermes travels between places, and it's hermetic because I don't know. That's my best answer. So
they also call them Masonic jars, so maybe there's a clue. But
yeah. I don't know actually why Hermes is associated with things being hermetically sealed, though I think there's a simple mythological answer that I'm just not. Again, Greek mythology is not actually my main mythology, right? It's like
right.
fourth or fifth best mythology.
Yeah.
So, but as far as Hermes being a hermetic jump between realms, right? The Hades, the realm of the gods, and Hermes moves between realms, and Dr. Paul Good, in a book on the Insel Humbrach outside of Dusseldorf, he had this proposal of the idea of the Hermesial jump. Also, Antoine Fevre, in his Access to Western Esotericism and all his other books on Hermes, addresses that issue a lot. So there's a lot of literature on why Hermes is seen as a being of movement as well as containment. But definitely the psychopomp, the traveler between the mortal realm and the divine realm is obvious why it was then associated with Thoth as something that connects us to the divine, the transmitter of the word, a moon god. The second part of your question is Jesus. What is Jesus in all of this? Well, the Hermetists actually quite clearly thought of Jesus as some kind of Messiah. It seems like Zosimos actually thought Jesus was a Messiah figure. But the idea to them that there would be an only Messiah, I think, is generally rejected. Like, it wouldn't make sense. Like it's sort of like how people think that Jesus said he was God and so they crucified him. Not at all, right? People saying that Jesus was God was the least controversial thing about him. It was more like, hey, raise your servants to the head of your household. The first shall be last, the last shall be first. The meek shall inherit the earth. That was the stuff that upset people, it seems.
Yeah,
I'm a kind of God or anything like that. No one had a problem with that because the Hermetists certainly saw us as gods, not just singular gods, but 2 times gods. So human beings in the Hermetist worldview are fascinating. It's the most optimistic view of things, and so we access our daimon, the spirit above us, our higher self, through our nous. But our nous is the daimon. and it unites with our soul when we die if we're initiated by reverence and wonder at
So I'm a
the
tree of
world that
life
exists
dummy.
beyond the physical.
Where is diamond and noose on the tree of life? Can you, because
Well, this
they made
predates
me
the tree
think
of
in the
life.
tree of life.
This
Yeah, I know, but
predates
I
the
think
tree of
in the
life
tree
by
of
a
life.
Okay. Well, I mean, the Golden
Is it the
Dawn does have a
neshama?
schema.
Is it the greater neshama? Is it the chia? Is it the ruach? Is it the
Yeah, so
nefesh?
I can put it in Kabbalistic terms, no problem.
Okay, thank
Your
you.
noose or your daimon would be would be arikan pin in the Aramaic. That would be the
Okay.
greater countenance, right? And so the
mm.
lesser countenance is the self that you are in this world. And
Right.
but you unite that through initiation in the Hermetic tradition, and that's done through reverence and thanksgiving and prayers
Where's the noose?
and worship. The noose is the same thing as your holy daimon or your divine self, the spirit that is connects you with God, that is God. If you can access your noose, then you can go all places and know all things, which I thought was an exaggeration until the telepathy tapes came out, to be honest.
Okay, so I when I wax poetic, sometimes I talk about
So
if God
your
is the
greater
sun.
neshama.
If God is the sun, then there's one ray of the sun, which is the sun. It's totally of the same nature as the sun, and that's your true individual separate self, which isn't separate at all because it's one with the sun. And then the illusion is if you put it next to another ray, like you and I are talking right now, that we're two separate gods, but really we're one God playing with himself.
Yeah, well, the Hermetists have a very clear distinction between the Father, the monad,
Right.
which is good, pure goodness, and creation and man and everything below, all the other animal life, and everything outside of pure God, pure monad is dirty because it's contaminated with the elements, and that's just a dirty
The
thing.
Chaldean Oracle talks about that, and Zimzum kind of alludes to that. And I tend to think of these all as kind of being different ways of saying the same thing, but maybe that's oversimplified. But
I mean, part of the idea is that we experience these things differently, but ultimately we return to a singular reality. But there is some difference between the ideas you see in a lot of Gnosticisms where the main goal is henosis, and henosis reunion with the one. But in Hermetism, it's not henosis. It's theosis. It's becoming a divine being. So your nous, your holy daimon, is a god, like the star gods or like the angels. And the Hermetica says this explicitly, like the star gods or maybe like the angels. They don't really know. So even the early Hermetists and the Hermetica are quite honest about the fact that how can they know? Because that's the whole point of being stuck on these bodies. But these bodies aren't bad things. The world is evil in the sense that it's contaminated with dirt because it's not purely good. But we aren't, we're a bit dirty, but we're not necessarily evil. Kind of, but not really. Because it sees us actually as quite grand. It sees us as dying gods. So in the Hermetic literature, in Hermetic spirituality, we are 2 times a normal god. We are, and they mean that. We are star gods, or like star gods or angels, and we are dying gods. Because face it, nothing else in creation that we've encountered, unless the government's hiding it from us, is like us. And so we are the gods of this universe. I think that's why the Genesis story says what it says. Like they looked around, they're like, okay, there's nothing else like us that's different that we can talk to and have a conversation with and play chess with. We just don't see it. So we are, but we die, we're mortal. And so while we're alive, it's super sacred. And we should give reverence for being alive because we are like gods. We can do things in these bodies that spirits could only dream of, that angels can't even fathom, right? That star gods are maybe, it's just, they can't, I would love to eat some. They can't imagine. You got your Eucharist all set up. How sacramental this is. So that's a very optimistic view of things. We are dying gods, which is, you can see the Osiris theme there, and that is of course endemic to the Hermetic literature in general. The roots in Egyptian. I mean, the Hermetic writing and spirituality was a pushback against hyper-intellectual Greek philosophy, right? They saw the Greek Hellenistic Neoplatonists as sort of, over-intellectual jibber jabbers, and they sort of actually say that in the Hermetica.
In the Renaissance,
they're like, yeah, no, in their 3rd century Alexandria.
At the time,
so
okay,
yeah, 3rd century Alexandria. So what you see in that community of Hermetism, is a devotional, reverential pushback against Greek intellectualism and blah 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 jibber jabber coming out of the Greek philosophers and like Neo-Pythagoreanism. So you see a version of that represented in the Hermetist community in Egypt, but they were emphasizing the devotional, the embodied divinity of humanity as sacred, and particularly sacred, you're going to love this, insofar in regards to love, particularly in terms of erotic love, because to quote Shakespeare, the world must be peopled. That's
right.
from Much Ado About Nothing, and I'll be taking Dr. Terry Burns to Much Ado About Nothing at Bard on the Beach here in Vancouver the Wednesday after the conference. So that's going to be a fun moment because I'm sure going to see a live Shakespeare play with one of the world's leading Elizabethan John Dee scholars is going to be
well, it might be like watching Harry Potter with somebody who's read all the books. Leaning over, this part is right.
We just rewatched all of Harry Potter. Actually, we just rewatched all of it. It holds up. It really does. It holds up. Especially these days, it seems like it should have won an Oscar given the stuff that they're putting out these days.
Oh man, I took my grandma to see one of the last ones where it's like super dark, super depressing, and like I was telling my grandma about Harry Potter, she's like, "Oh, that sounds delightful."
Dark fast.
I took her to that one.
They get dark. I think the first 2 are delightful. By the 3rd one, it's like super dark.
Yeah. And what's his name? Robert Pattinson showed up in the 4th one, I think, right? Little
and then
tiny,
dies.
Right, yeah.
Then gets killed by
becomes a vampire named Edward, who then turns into Batman and runs a lighthouse or something. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I guess okay. So Hermetism is the 3rd thing that I think I was leaving out. I mean, in an oversimplified false dichotomy sense, I think what it comes down to is if a hypothetical person is coming from an Orthodox Christian background, which includes every different kind of basically mainstream Protestantism, maybe even includes the Mormons. We'll put an asterisk on that and kind of let them have, not so much Jehovah's Witnesses, but whatever. Like if somebody grows up thinking I'm going to worship Jesus as God and the Holy Spirit, because if I don't, I'm going to burn in hell, and the community is important, and and the priest, and I'm supposed to eat bread, right, and have grape juice or wine, whatever. Like if that's someone's background, and then one day they realize that all of that was an evil Roman conspiracy for world domination, and that the real Jesus is in the Nag Hammadi. If that's somebody's background, and then they want to join a Gnostic initiatory order, these days you've got the Ecclesiastica Gnostica, of course, the OTO, right? And you've got like a bunch of Gnostic groups and Gnostic orders and things that people can join that, from what I can gather, were established in the 60s at the earliest, the 70s more likely, maybe the 90s. But if they want something ancient that goes back further, then they're going to have to compromise on some of their Gnostic centric, in the sense of the Nag Hammadi. I don't know what my point even ever was. I guess it's just, it was a frustration that I came up against as a teacher several times, where students were unable to digest basic teachings from the Golden Dawn, like the Yeshua, Yehovasha idea. Now, okay, here's an idea. Sorry, I'm just blipping like a hummingbird all over the place. Yeshua, as spelled Yod He Shin Vav He, goes back to a guy in the 14th century named, do you know? I forgot.
His name is Giovanni. Giovanni. His name is Giovanni.
That guy, the bearded Esoterica, the Esoterica channel, that great channel, the guy with the big beard, he name dropped it and then kept talking, and then I lost track of it. He said, no, man. Yeah, because Joshua isn't spelled that way. Nobody spelled in Hebrew.
Josh.
Right. Yeah, nobody spelled it Yod He Shin Vav He. It's got an ayin in it, and it's got a different spelling. But the whole tetragrammaton with the shin becoming pentagrammaton concept that so many of the magical formulae in the Golden Dawn are based on, the foundation of that idea, was apparently made up, or at least it doesn't predate the 14th century, from what I can gather. Not saying it's not valuable. I think useful and divine information could be downloaded tomorrow and be just as holy and authentic as something downloaded 3,000 years ago. But I think that's interesting. I don't know. People think authenticity equals ancientness, and so they don't accept anything that isn't ancient, or if it can be proven to have been made up yesterday, then they don't accept it or take it seriously. So we should only take and ancient Akkadian and Babylonian things seriously, because you know what I mean, like that. Like, how far do you care? So only cavemen have the truth. Am I making sense? I'm not making sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes from Pico and Reuchlin, Johann Reuchlin and Giovanni Pico. And they, Pico was learning from rabbis and Kabbalists who were expelled from Spain after the Spanish expulsion from Spain, after the Portuguese took over Muslim Spain and kicked out all the Jews. A lot of them went to Italy and mixed with the intellectual culture there. And
some of them came to Goa, but then they started killing them here too. Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Well, fortunately, no one ever wants to kill the Jews anymore.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Glad that's all behind us. So the pentagrammaton, I have a great lecture on it on my course for self-initiation in the Golden Dawn tradition. Go to goldendawnselfinitiation.com. And I was very nervous about that lecture I had on it, because one of my students is a Canadian rabbi, and I was like, this might be a big pill to swallow. And when we had our weekly one-on-one session, I was like, what did you think of that lesson? He was like, oh, I thought it was great. I'm like, really? You didn't have a problem with it as a Jewish rabbi? He's like, not at all. And he proceeded to give me a lecture on how adding the shin to the tetragrammaton makes perfect sense to him and really opens up a lot of ideas magically and spiritually. So apparently it resonates, and it therefore, I think, must have some numinous quality to it for those who are interested in Kabbalistic forms of interpretation and hermeneutics.
Yeah. I think when people are locked in to a binary, this false dichotomy exists, and I side with this, not this. And anytime you say or act, or and anything that reminds me of this, then I'm going to react. But if people just simply don't do that, or realize that that's a really harebrained and simplistic way of approaching anything, most things anyway, then yeah, like if you like, I always use the example of like the lay people, the people who know nothing except for which cricket team or football team or baseball team. What do you have in Canada? The hockey team, like which team they support and which team they hate. So I'm a Muslim, not a Hindu. I'm a Christian, not a Muslim. I'm a religious person, not an atheist. And so they don't have the ability to find the commonality and the universality at play between Sufi poetry, existential atheistic angst, and faith in Yeshua, and devotion to the tradition of Passover, or whatever it is, where a person who has an open question mark, has an open mind, has the ability to see, to hear truth without it needing to match, whatever they're carrying with them. Someone who can let go of all previous recordings in their brain and hear actually and listen to what is being said. And then, well, yeah. So like, someone who's not like, I'm on the Jew football team, not the Christian football team, then they can hear about Pentagrammaton and see the wisdom of it, the truth of it, or the interestingness of it, or, have a conversation.
I like to think of it like this, like, if you believe in Jesus in the most fundamental way, so let's take the most fundamental declaration of faith in Jesus, which was the earliest one, which was basically, confession or belief in Jesus as Lord and Savior. Of course, when I first heard that, I was like, yeah, but what does Lord and Savior mean? They're like, the professor was like, doesn't matter. That was not the issue.
Yeah.
Like, like, do you believe is Jesus your Lord and Savior? Yes or no? Not like,
right.
Well, it depends. If you mean Savior, no, none
Savior
of that.
Savior from what?
So,
Lord of what?
Like, yeah, you get to decide maybe. If you believed in it, that made you a Christian. So do I believe in Jesus as Lord and Savior? For sure. I'm a Christian, of course. But let's get esoteric. Let's get mystical, right? So that's the fundamental. If you just take the bare fundamental Christian confession, that can mean a whole lot of things. And for the Golden Dawn tradition, that means the salvific, incarnated, embodied Hermetic being who represents the attainment of divine initiation into your nous, into your higher consciousness, connection with your holy daimon. And so if Jesus was a savior for Zoshimos and the early Hermetists, who were mostly, if not all, pagan, though some were probably Christians, some were Jews, and by Christian in the sense that they had heard of Jesus and were like, oh yeah, that guy sounds like a Lord and Savior. And if you had said to them, did you know he says he's God? They'd be like, yeah, well, he'd have to be a god, right? But if someone said, "Oh, but did you hear he says he's the only God?"
Right, then it's like, what?
First of all, wait, but no one would have
Yeah.
said that because the idea of an only God was not a thing then. It seems to be the case that was not a thing. You would have said, "What do you mean only? Like, are you the only person?"
Yeah. Now, do you think that was something encouraged? Is that the thing that was added by Constantine and the boys that made it uniquely what we recognize as Orthodox Christianity? Because they won't budge on that. They say Jesus is God, no one else is. You're not God. Krishna's not God. In fact, he doesn't exist. Like
the Roman Catholic Church, not Constantine, because this debate came later. Nicaea only codified
the basic
Catholicity in harmony with Orthodoxy. There was no difference between Catholicity and Orthodoxy really at Nicaea.
Right. At that time.
That developed later on as the Bishop of Rome became more powerful and eventually said, I'm the only bishop.
700 years later.
Exactly. Almost exactly. Like I think 1055 or something. So 1054, 1055, if I recall. And so, they each excommunicated each other 1 year after, I excommunicate you. No, I excommunicate you.
Right. Yeah.
Because, and the Orthodox bishops, the Eastern Orthodoxies were fine with saying you're the first among equal, but the Pope had to be, no, I'm the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, the idea of Jesus, but the idea, yes, you were right. The idea of Jesus as it's not actually just the only God. That was part of it. But the Roman Catholicism developed what I would consider the most sinful doctrine ever conceivable, which was to say Jesus was God, but not just that. Not just is Jesus God and you're not. There isn't even a spark or a fragment of that substance in you. Not any. And to say so is heresy and a sin, and you're going to hell. So that's why that's when I moved to the Anglican Church, when I learned that in seminary.
Interesting.
I was like, can I be an Anglican and think there's the substance of God in me? They're like, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
They're like, are you fine with same-sex unions? I'm like, yeah, of course. And they're like, cool, come on board. My old mentor now actually just got elevated. My old mentor in seminary just got elevated to become Archbishop of British Columbia.
Oh, how cool. Now, in my terminology,
awesome
the Anglicans is Church of England, right? Or is that?
Yeah, well, there's Anglican Church of Canada, there's the Anglican Church of England, there's the Anglican Church of Ireland, of Scotland, of Wales. Yeah,
I think in the US they call that the Episcopal Church.
Yeah, and it works. The reason it works is because the structure is that every bishop is in charge of their own kingdom, essentially, and then they all get together with all the local bishops at a synod, and the congregants.
Which is kind of what the Eastern Orthodox do these days, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't know anything about that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they don't have a pope. I think they have like a most important archbishop or something. But
I think the bishops decide on things. I don't think the married clergy and congregants get any say in anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We have private counsel, no shaggers allowed.
Oh, okay.
But again, I don't know. I'm just being. Just being. How are you being over in India these days? I wish I could see you more often, but I wanted to go to your wedding, but then my bank account got hacked and I was stuck in Europe.
Oh, that sucks. Oh man. No, I'm good. It's raining these days, and we try not to be busy, but we end up being busy, but usually just doing fun things and social things. And we were very hermit-like. Had another conjugate with hermit and hermetic. A hermit is a person who goes off by themselves or up on a mountaintop with a lantern, right? Is that related to hermetist?
I don't know if the etymology is. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Hey, Editor Edward, could you let us know about that since you're in front of a computer?
Etymology of hermit.
Oh, okay. You got it.
You can ask Editor Edward.
Oh, it's okay. Well, when we were living in South Goa, and we're very hermit-like and not really socializing. There was kind of no sound outside, except for we had this landlord that was very loud, and and a dog. His dog was very loud. So it was this weird sort of isolated, sometimes oppressive feeling, like overwhelming silence, and this old thin lady across the street staring at us from inside her window. And so we would try to avoid, if the phone would ring, we'd be like, oh, fuck, the phone's ringing. Oh God, what are we going to do? But then eventually we moved to North Goa, which is more active. We're in an apartment complex, basically, with other couples that are like us, a foreigner and an Indian, together. And then her dad came to live with us. And so now we've got we've got people and cousins and, different things happening. And at least once a month, we're entertaining a group of people. And I've got my car. It's an Indian made car, Tata Punch. And so I get to drive people around and show them all the cool spots. And so, we're a little more active than we were last year. And got Wi-Fi now, which is nice. We were just at the time, it made sense for us because before that we were living in New Delhi. New Delhi is just constant cars honking and craziness and people shouting, and it's New Delhi. It's like one of the busiest. It's like it's neck and neck with Beijing as far as what's the most polluted, most busy, most unpleasant place in the world, the urban environment. So from there, we wanted to go into nature, and so we chose South Goa. We chose the to be off grid, literally, and then after a year and a half of that, we were like, okay, we don't need to be that off grid. So now we're in North Goa, which is a nice balance of things. So
that must have been when I was talking to you a few other times, and you had really interesting.
Oh, that was before
life you're living.
Yeah, before Delhi, we were in North Goa again, but we were there's been several phases because it's been like 7 years. So we were in Anjuna, which is like the party part. One of the huge like Russian drug addicts go to Anjuna. It's very like there's a hippie element, there's a party element, there's a drunks and drugs element, and so we went there. But we were in an old Portuguese house in the middle of this party town. So we would hear like 7 different clubs, like till 7 a.m. We're listening to music from and so that got old. And then eventually we went back to Delhi because that was where I was registered, and I had to take care of my partial citizenship, becoming an OCI, Overseas Citizen of India. In order to, live here and not have to renew my visa every 6 months, and all that kind of thing. And so it made more sense to be in Delhi for that. And so then after a year and a half in Delhi, then we went to South Goa, and then we came to North Goa again. So there's been like various stages and phases. So you and I, we did a few interviews when I was in Anjuna, which was back 2001, back then. I think. Anyway, it was a while ago.
You mean 2021? You mean 2021?
Oh yeah, 2020. Yeah, 20.
You did what I did. I know it. You want to say 2001, but what you mean is 2021 because we're old fucks now.
So crazy.
Yeah, well, it's always fun to see bits of your adventures over in India and all of that. Yeah, that's always a treat. Yeah, I look forward to getting over there someday. I've always wanted to go to Goa. When I was touring full time, I was offered a tour in Goa by a company run by this musician, and I looked into it, and it was legit. It was very legit. I didn't realize at the time the economic factors and differences between our countries. So I was like, how can you put on a tour like this, and I just have to show up with my band? And I looked into it. I was like, oh, things are cheaper there a little bit, just a little. And so that's how you can put on these huge shows for thousands of people, pay us. We just have to fly there and get our visas, and it's a massive tour. But we never did it because my bandmates were not interested at all. Which is too bad. That probably would have been because, you can do a lot of in other countries. I played some big shows in Asia. And again, just the cost of doing it's less. And there's definitely a hunger for Western artists who are willing to make the trip.
The founder of the Jesuit order, on his birthday, every year they wheel out his old mummy, and people line up around the block for miles and miles and miles to touch the box he's in and look through the glass at this hideous looking face and say a prayer to the founder of the Jesuit order. That's a thing. It sounds very pagan. I mean, it sounds like the sort of thing Martin Luther would have been like, this, you call this Christian? This is fucking pagan, But I mean, I kind of, there's so many overlaps and connections and things Goa has a very interesting history, a fucked up history, in a couple of ways that you could focus on. And then more recently, it was when everybody decolonized after World War II, the British were like, okay, we're tired of it. It's too expensive trying to run the world. And we're totally fucked after World War II. So India, you do your own thing. And everybody else, except for like those islands by Argentina, we're going to keep those. But anyway, and so then India was like, hey, Portugal, everybody's given back the property they took. Why don't you give us this property you took of ours 500 years ago? And Portugal was like, nah, we're good. We're going to keep it. And so then after a while, India came in and took it by force. And then the whole world was like, oh, Mr. Peace and Love and Ulm over there with his art, with his tanks and his armies going in and forcibly taking land from the Portuguese. Huh? Looks like the priest has been caught coming out of the brothel. That was John F. Kennedy said that. And about Goa, about India taking over Goa. And so then so Goa existed as like Portugal's favorite colony for 500 years. And then suddenly now it exists as an Indian state. So it's a very unique place. And there's still a lot of folks that identify as Portuguese here or identify as Goan, but not Indian. But most people would say, yeah, I'm Goan first, and then I'm Indian. Sometimes people say I'm Indian, then I'm Goan, or they'll say I'm Portuguese. But what happens, sometimes people say I'm not Indian, I'm Portuguese. And there's like a legal route where they can say, I'm going to get a Portuguese passport and I'm going to move to Portugal. And then they get to Portugal and the Portuguese are like, oh, you're Indian, eh? And they're like, what? No, I'm Portuguese. My passport says I'm Portuguese. I'm from Goa. And they're like, Goa, India, right? Yeah, you're Indian. And so then they end up coming back to Goa like, I guess I'm not Portuguese, like I think I'm Goan, So yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff, swirlings.
What's it been like throughout your life to express yourself through all these different hats and personas and ways of being? Because I think when I watch you, sometimes I wonder what others might think. And I wonder if there's any way, because I know you so long and so well, I can see what you're doing is, mercurially, as the Virgo you are, using your creativity, of which you have a surplus, to say the least, to express all these different modalities of, as the Hermetica says, life and light into the world. And I would sometime you and me need to just talk, and I'll tell you all the different ways the Golden Dawn is hermetic according to the original. It's wild. I will just have we should probably do that on the podcast, but tough shit, people. I'll have you on my podcast after later. The conference. Like, I'll have you back on my podcast and stuff. But what's it been like to express yourself in all those ways? Because I've gotten to do a bit of that as a musician, and obviously as a magical teacher. I express myself through this abrogated motto of mine from the Outer Order, given to me by Ka. Shout out to Mimo. And
episode 10.
Love that, homie. I just gave a copy of 3 copies of his book, one of his books, to some of my best friends, because I was like, you got to see this. You got to see what my old initiator has done. Like, he's done so many fun works. I always wish him the best. Anyway, what were we saying? But yeah, so I've had a chance to express myself through a few different horizons in life. But I'm curious, I wanted to know, like, what's that journey been like for you, and what's the relationship between those characters? Because you actually give them expression on your shows. You interject with each other. What the hell, man? Gosh. I know. See, some people might think you're schizophrenic. I know you're not. I know you're just a mad artist. I know you're just a crazy artist. which is
I
why you
mean,
can say the things you say wearing the holy gem of the inner order, because you're
mm,
doing something. You're transgressing. You're exploring extraterritorially, infusing horizons, mashing them together, even that normally wouldn't be interacting with each other. And to
right.
me, that's something that's
Yeah.
inspiring. It's scary and it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things, like it's similar to saying, you know, I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things seen and unseen, and one Lord Jesus Christ, maker of heaven and earth, and Krishna, and Lord Buddha, and also the atheists have a good point, because ultimately it's Ein, the veils of negative existence. And so, like, I like to insist upon having the ability to move between these worlds without setting up any barriers. And when other people come in with their barriers and they want to enforce their barriers on my mind, I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, you're in my church, you're in my house, and here Jesus and being a Jew are two separate things, or whatever. Like I remember, I had a Jewish best friend in high school, and I had a Jewish stepdad, and I was learning Hebrew and going to synagogue and everything. But then I got into Golden Dawn and started wearing a little rose cross, and she stopped hanging out with me and said, Jews do not wear crosses. And just like that was just, there was a line, and I was like, well, shit, I guess I'm not a Jew. But like
But are you
I feel
Jewish?
like, well, I mean, no. I mean, by any definition, no. I didn't go through any kind of confirmation or bar mitzvah ceremony, but I did used to go to synagogue. My stepdad was Jewish. My mom wanted to be Jewish. My sister converted. The Jewish folks that ran the entertainment industry, called me an honorary Jew because I was the only one in the office that knew Hebrew.
I mean, all you need is a pair of scissors, right?
I was circumcised as an American. They're
So,
the New
but
Jerusalem,
not in the right way. Not in the right way.
Not
So
not with a rabbi and everything, but yeah, no. I mean, I wear the yarmulke, and I say not in my name about the stuff in the Middle East. Rather than hey, you guys, stop that. I say, like, we should stop that. Like that kind of thing.
It's funny how the only people who have ever given me grief about, like, the people who give us grief about wearing klippas or yarmulkes or headwear like that, the people who give us grief are non-Jews.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's a very
Yeah.
very active.
When you go to a Jewish synagogue, they want you to wear a yarmulke.
Right.
They're not going to be like, no, you dirty Gentile, not for you. No, they'll be like, please put this on, sir.
Yeah. The people who cry out about cultural appropriation are the white people who feel like that they're only allowed to go to the Renaissance fair or dress up like a Viking, and if they want to do anything other than wear modern clothes or a suit and tie. And I find that sad, like I want to be able to move in and out of worlds. And, occasionally, once in a while, you run into somebody in Bhutan or India who's like, now, wait a minute, aren't you a white guy? But 999 out of 1,000 people, if they see you wearing, relics or, wearing clothing or robes, meditating, chanting Om, wearing a bindi, using a dorja and bell, they'll smile. They'll be happy. Like that for one thing, something like Buddhism, he never said, hey, I've got this great philosophy, but it's only for people that are east of the Middle East, like if you're from over there or down there, then people are going to look at you funny if you call yourself a Buddhist. Like, that's stupid. I mean, it's obviously stupid from his point of view. It's as stupid as a Christian saying you can't be a Christian, you're Chinese, because that, I mean, the whole point of, what I mean? Like the exoteric Christianity is we're going to convert the whole world, but what's my point? My point is, yeah, meditation, Om, this is not ethnicity specific. Like, sure, things have their origins, and it's obnoxious when people sell things. Yeah, it's obnoxious when Indians in India sell spirituality. It's a little more obnoxious when non-Indians who aren't from India sell Indian spirituality. Like, selling spirituality is obnoxious. Like, I mean, there you can sell spirituality adjacent things like knowledge and all this. I'm not talking shit about you specifically, no, but like selling your services, like hey, if you pay me, I'll dedicate hours and hours of my life to teaching you specifically. Like, okay, that's sort of different, right? And there's the whole donation caveat where the Buddhists, for instance, took donations and very large donations, and they had a sort of almost pseudo-communistic thing where they're like, well, none of us own anything. The order is rich, though. Like, we all have it's sort of the Templars had that too, with take a vow of poverty, and then you get to live in this golden monastery that we all, don't own, but it owns us, kind of thing. What am I talking about? I don't know.
The way of Hermes, it seems that the way of Hermes requires a guide. And teaching, I think, is a noble profession, and the more we denigrate it and act like they don't deserve to be paid for their work, the worse, the more illiterate and uneducated and stupid we get. So, like, I spend about $400 or $500 a month currently on my education. That's paying people with PhDs to teach me shit. So I spend twice what any of my students pay on me. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm learning Greek. I'm doing the work.
I'm for either way.
Then I'll turn it over for you. One more thing about that. I'm happy to stop having to teach for a living, because that's what I do. I owe $800. I have to pay $800 a month in student loans to the government the rest of my life. So I need to use that degree if I can. And it turns out I found a way. After being banned from working for a living by my government for 3 years during lockdown, I figured out a way to do that and provide real value for people. And I'm happy to stop doing that as soon as we all have a utopia Marxist paradise and get basic income. Yeah. Sure, bring it on. We're not going to, because humans are corrupt motherfuckers and greedy as shit. So that'll never happen. So maybe we could just actually focus on not revolution, but reform, and make better policies, more fairness, get rid of corruption and crony capitalism for a start, right?
Yeah.
And then and make and be nicer to everybody. And also get rid of the corruption. It's really all about corruption. I think that's the one thing that we see, and that's the one thing
all
that's
throughout
changed
history,
throughout time. Like, that's what the book of Revelation is actually about. It's about corruption. Well, the Enochian angels, when they talk to Dee and Kelly, there's this great passage, man. So there's one mention. You want a little Enochiana for your podcast? This is the new book by Joseph H. Peterson. The new edition, the new translation, or it's what you want. It's what you want.
Yeah.
It's what you want. So there's only one mention of drugs in all of the John Dee diaries. And believe it or not, everyone else who mentioned the reference to drugs missed they never went to the original documents, so they overlooked one funny fucking factor. Do you know what day the drugs is referenced in the Dee diaries?
420.
Yes. Correct.
That's awesome. That's cool.
I know neither of us are stoners anymore, but we had our phases. We've had our experiences in life. But check out what the angel says to Dee and Kelly on April 20th, 1583. This is so this is so hardcore. Where is it? Yeah, the appendix on April 20th. Dee is talking, blah blah blah. He talks a lot. He writes a lot. You see, that's interesting when you're reading his diary. If his diary says that he said all these things, did he really say all those things, or is he writing in his diary that he said all those things?
That's interesting.
Right. That's right. You gotta think about that. the spirit Ilimi says, I know what all your talk hath been, but such minds, such infection, such corruption, and must needs have a potion applicable for the cure. But how will you do? I have forgotten all my drogs, droggs, drogs behind me. But since I know that some of you are well stored with sufficient ointments, this is an angel saying this, I do intend to visit you only with their help. You see, all my boxes are empty. And Edward Kelly says that the spirit showeth a great bundle of empty drug boxes. Potticherry is the word. Potticher. And they seem to be hearing a rattle. And Dee says, how cometh it that you pretend to come from a favorable divine power to pleasure us, and your boxes are empty? That's how it goes, kids. If you die and become a spirit and visit some sorcerers, make sure your drug boxes are not empty. You'll get chewed out.
Well, I mean, okay. It's probably a long story that I could probably talk too long about as far as the different personas and how that's been useful and helpful. And revisiting them and as psychological tools and diving into Carl Jung's black books. I mean, when I started...
I've really enjoyed those videos you've done. I've really enjoyed them. Every time one of them ends, I'm like, oh no. And then I'm like, wait, there's like 50 more.
Yeah. I started Carl Jung's black books as kind of like, first, okay, what happened was, I mean, okay, again, there's too many stories and they all involve all these personas. So it's been an ongoing thing. And it goes back to when I was, it goes back to, have you seen that video called Which One's Insanity? Okay, I'll send it to you after this. And I'll point here. Other people can watch that if you want to later. I wrote a song on mushrooms in 1997 when my mom was still alive. And the lyrics were, there are three of me, which one's reality, which one's insanity. That's part of the lyrics. And so then the question is, there are three of me. What does this mean? Well, there's the me, the normal me that acts like hello, I am Edward. Yes, I went to private school. Yes. Oh, ha ha ha. That's like, okay, that's one guy. Then there's the me that's on drugs, that's like, fuck it, man, like, I don't know, man, And then there's the, and so then there's this internal question of which one of these is real? Which one of these is sane? Which one is insane? And it's like, well, I'm of three minds on the subject, And so that's kind of where it goes back to that basic fundamental. And then dramatizing that and acting it out. And then Chris and I would write like letters, dear sober Ed and Chris, don't smoke weed tomorrow. Like, signed stoned Ed and Chris. And so that kind of interaction between personas. So anyway, fast forward 20 years. And I became inspired. So short version, I went on my pilgrimage to the East. I came to Nepal. I went to Bhutan. I went to a Nyingma temple, which is like old school Padmasambhava, Tibetan Vajrayana, and touched the breastplate supposedly of Padmasambhava through cloth, and had this like wow kind of experience because like my dad had taught me something when I was a kid that I associated with Padmasambhava. And so then I was like, I want the robe that the Nyingma monks wear. And so then they gave me one. They fitted it to me and everything. But then I folded it up and put it in a drawer because cultural appropriation. I mean, I don't even want to wear that in private, let alone be seen wearing that. And then a little while later, there was this fucking guy in Bhutan, the head of a lineage, one of the famous Bhutani Tibetan Buddhist teachers, leaders, gurus. And okay, what happened was there's this American Shambhala thing where Chogyam Trungpa, who was shady guy, but great, crazy wisdom, like, yeah, he drank, he smoked, he diddled, he had sex and everything, and he taught people, but that's the way of like skillful means. Buddha had to cut, whatever. So they've got their American thing. I always had that in its own category in my mind. Then four head guru guys later, turns out he was raping a bunch of people. Big surprise. Tragic for those people. A bunch of people came out and said, hey, this guy was raping me. And then a bunch of people were like, but they took vows of secrecy. They're the ones doing something wrong if they're talking about it. If he didn't do anything wrong by raping them, that's part of his skillful way of leading them to enlightenment. They did something wrong by, and so I was like, wow, that's fucked. Then I hear this guy in Bhutan, who's the head of one of the main lineages in Bhutan, saying the same thing, and then doubling down and talking about how woke people are, and that these girls who got raped are woke. And that's the problem, is the wokeness. And, and then gurus have needs too. Like, we should have them sign a thing saying, yeah, well, if I have sex with the guru, then I'm not going to talk about it and so then I was so disillusioned because I had thought of Bhutan as being an example of that part of Tibetan Buddhism that I liked. And so then I went through a process where like 2-3 years went by, and I was like, fuck it. I don't care about Buddhism. I don't even care. But then gradually I started to be like, I love Buddha, just the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. I don't care about any of the rest of it. But then gradually I started to want to build my personal tower I wanted to learn all the Theravada. So this is all the Theravada. I wanted to lay that foundation before learning the Mahayana. And I wanted to learn all the Mahayana before I lay the foundation of the Vajrayana. I don't want to take the quick route, and I don't want a guru. I'm going to self-initiate myself all the way throughout the top of Vajrayana before I die. That, is, and I started to have such a conviction about it that I felt that the guy, that head of that lineage in Bhutan is soiling the robe he wears, and I started to look at that robe that I had been keeping in my drawer for 3 years, and I smoked some weed, and I said, fuck it. And I put the robe on, and I turned on the camera, and I started reading Dhammapada, and it became Buddhist Books Podcast. And so then over time, I started like my what I was putting out into the world was me wearing a monk's robe. The Vajra, now that particular kind of monk, you can be married, you can be a householder. It's a go-between between the monastic monks and the householders. It's the link. It's Nyingma Nagapa shawl technically. So anyway, but then like, being open about, I'm not an ordained Nyingma Nagapa in any order. I'm just wearing the shawl because I feel personally called to wear it. And I feel like I'm more worthy to wear the thing than that asshole who has got all the lineage, that you can get. And, So I felt very passionate about wanting to get to this peaceful spiritual center in this weird way, this roundabout way. And that was kind of an evolution of my persona at that time. And then a guy came from America to visit me in India, and he was surprised that I wasn't wearing the robe in my own house. So I found out that people back home were visualizing me here with Piyu walking around in a monk's robe going, thank you for my kanji, wife, like I don't know what they're imagining. And they think I have a cult. They think I'm a cult leader, that I wear that robe now, that's my new persona. That's who I am now. And so I decided to start chicken philosophy and be Edward and just wear a shirt and say, hi, I'm Edward. I'm a guy. I have parents. My grandpa was into Carl Jung. I'm going to read Carl Jung. And so but then reading Carl Jung and getting to know all of his inner characters, then that started. Then Piyu gave me this hat and said, hey, you can wear this on when you do chicken philosophy. And I was like, you don't even know what kind of can of worms you just opened by giving me a hat and telling me to wear it on the internet, And so then I started just wearing it as, I'm still Edward. It's just Edward. I'm just wearing a hat. but after 3-4 episodes, I was like, okay, I'm Gwydion. I admit it, And then I started reading Ashtavakra Gita, and some asshole comes on and starts ranting and raving about how big of an ego I have and how can you read Ashtavakra Gita with such a big ego. And I looked at his profile. He's a British guy and he's talking shit about Irish people. And I'm like, okay, some asshole, like thinks that. So anyway, so Gwydion quit. Gwydion was like, fuck it. I went on this rant on Meccan Revelation Part 10 toward the end. I went on this rant about this fucker in England and about just all you motherfuckers, and I'm out of here. So then Pymander, first we declared that Pymander was the monk robe wearing version of me. So Pymander and BT and Edward had to pick up the slack and rotate. And then eventually Pymander was like, fuck this, I'm Buddhist books guy. I'm not chicken philosophy guy. And he made Gwydion come back to the show. And so then that was when the rotation got started between Gwydion and Edward and BT. And then Pymander runs Buddhist books and occasionally visits chicken philosophy. But as far as like what that's done for me, I think it's quadrupled my ability to be myself in a way. And I mean, and like you said, these things, some of them are contradictory, like the monk, the Buddhist monk and the Golden Dawn chief adept of his own order of one, and versus the crazy guy with the fedora versus a normal guy named Edward. I mean, I think for me, it's essential and important to be able to be any and all of these because I am. And I don't know if I'm talking too much, but like, because part of Edward's persona is he's a little bit like, he, is cautious about what he says and like nervous around people, and all of that. Where Gwydion, you remember I was telling you, used to, tell the owner of the speakeasy to kiss his ass and say, do you know who I am? And that's kind of that wasn't the original Gwydion, but that was how Gwydion got formed around 2006, 2007. And with the art walk videos. And then the art walk videos were the original YouTube channel that Gwydion did, but he had already established a blog and other things. And I don't know if I'm answering your questions. There's like too many things to go into, but they don't all fit together very neatly. But yeah, I mean, I think anybody who wants to can check out Chicken Philosophy and gradually get to know all the different personas. And I feel like
I love it.
Like Gwydion puts people off, but I don't care. Like Gwydion's not there to be popular. Gwydion is.
Haven't they ever been to a nightclub? He's low key.
Yeah, Gwydion is there like completely to be a no limits. I'm going to go ahead and open my mouth and say whatever the fuck comes out my mouth, and it's not for other
mercurial trickster side, as I see it.
Oh, thank you.
With a Celtic twist, with a little Celtic twist.
Yeah. Little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
Marion Zimmer Bradley called Arthur's incest baby Gwydion. So that's the origin of how it got given to me. But it's of course a Welsh god before that, and then there's this interesting person in Wales that I watched a long video about Gwydion. I say Gwydion.
Speaking of cults, bro, I had a drunk message from an old bandmate from like 15 years ago recently, or by recently I mean the last couple of years, and they were drunk, so they're just saying all kinds of shit. But then at the end they're like, anyway, you can write me back or not. Fuck you. Haha. I'm just joking. I love you. Fuck off. Right. And by the way, I heard you joined a cult. Makes sense. Bye. So this person is hammered. Someone I used to sing with. And I was like, what's really funny? This person was so loquacious. They make me look like I'm living under a vow of celibacy my whole life. That's how loquacious this person was. So when they said like, oh, I heard you joined a cult, that makes sense. My only thought was like, wow, you really never let me talk or listen to anything I said because you would have learned some things about me. Like no one, my
Yeah.
entire career in the music world, no one even had a clue I was interested whatsoever in spirituality, let
Mm.
alone magic or anything. Like I went into that world
Right.
and no one
Mm.
cared. And
Yeah,
even
yeah.
if they asked, I wasn't interested in talking about it. But it's so funny to think that they would hear that I became like a Freemason or something and be like, "Oh, you joined a cult." It's like, dude, I used to run one of the largest Golden Dawn temples in history in Vancouver. What are you talking about? I joined a cult. I was as close as I will ever
Yeah.
get to being a cult leader, but I quit because I refused to actually become one. That's the
Right.
way I see it. Because I would
Hmm.
have had to to keep control of Tahuti, I would have had to expel a bunch of people, and they were so hostile. It was like, yeah, I'd rather just walk away and go do my PhD. And they were
Hmm.
signing, like, they were forging my signatures on bank documents and legal and
Oh
corporation documents.
man.
Like, yeah, I don't want to fight you guys. Take all my shit. See you later.
Hmm.
I've got big fish to fry. I've got real shit to do. You can all
Hmm.
squabble around Zink's grade material all you want. I'm gonna go
Hmm.
learn some real shit
Yeah.
over in Europe.
Oh my
But yeah,
gosh.
but I thought it was funny because you mentioned being in a robe and your friends thinking like, yeah, are you a cult leader now?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
shows you how little they know about us. Like I was born into a as close as you could to a cult, though it was Maharishi, so it was actually pretty healthy environment, and I really enjoyed the practices and the initiations and the whole that way of growing up was way more spiritual and way more empowering than growing up in some forms of Christianity or other religions that exist today. Like,
Right.
I mean, so many
Yeah.
people are raised in brutal fundamentalist environments and or some
Yeah.
something like
Very
that.
fear-based. Like don't do this or you'll go to hell. Don't do that or
Yes.
you'll go to hell. Don't talk to that person. There's a demon. Don't go down that street. There's a demon. Don't open that tarot card deck. There's a demon. Like just very paranoid, like hair standing up on end, like looking side to
Well,
side, kind of
you
like
were
way of
mentioning
life.
you were mentioning Dr. Justin Sledge of Esoterica channel on YouTube, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Right. I mean, he did a great video on satanic panic because he got arrested in the 90s, I believe, because of a satanic panic, just like Damien Eccles did. But Damien, of course, spent 18 years on death row as a result of being part of the West Memphis Three and accused of heinous crimes when he was only 17, 18,
Oh my
just because he was a
gosh.
goth kid into white Wicca. He was into white, even on the
Oh
first,
God.
even in the first video when they're interviewing him, when he's a suspect but not on trial, not being charged or on trial. They're like, so we're here. You're into Aleister Crowley and Satanism. He's like this cute little kid. He looked like us or like me, at least when I was that age with the long hair. He's like, actually, I'm into Wicca and mainly white Wicca. Like he's exactly like us. And they're like, got him.
Yeah.
And then they throw him in jail for death row for 18 years. You
Oh
know.
no.
So
That's so
Justin
stupid.
Sledge has covered
Mm.
that well, and hopefully I'll be able to get Justin Sledge and Damien together next year at the conference. But Justin Sledge is, man, really grateful to him for being a part of our conference this year. I'm picking him from the airport Thursday to
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well, I mean,
gonna
at
be
that
amazing.
that's like there's two the person who exists in a type of Protestant Christianity usually where they're walking around afraid of everything. Um, it's like that's one phenomenon, and then related to that is the phenomenon of arresting people for doing white Wicca, and they're related. But like the way of life of a person who is afraid of everything, it's just tragic. I mean, it's. I mean, if it's like there's a certain type of person who likes horror movies, and they like to be scared, and so from that perspective, then the ultimate orgasm for them would be to be born into a family where everything is Satan and you have to worry about burning in hell forever. But then they would be like adjacent or related to people who want to go out and arrest people for doing a cone of power to the moon in the woods on a full moon. So they're definitely connected. but living under fear, and I mean, and we ran into that, or at least I did, or at least I noticed it. And I even, when we're under attack, like that whole thing in the Golden Dawn, afraid of magical attack, or afraid of thought senders or whatever, it was kind of very much that same kind of thing of just, and in that sense, it may have been very intentionally rulership by fear by someone who had just read Niccolo Machiavelli tell you, oh, well, you should rule through fear, like, okay, I'll rule through fear. Let's make everybody afraid and have a common enemy, like very intentional, transparent manipulation tactics,
Well, a lot of us, as soon as we heard that stuff, it was the beginning of the end for us, like a lot. I don't know how you stuck it out so long. Maybe it was because you had been in it longer from earlier in age.
Well, part of it was
because you almost left a few times, like you and me and Pete, we went through Portal together. So whatever movements or progressions or you almost quitting happened in the Outer Order by April 1999, by April 1999, you and P were actually ready for Portal. And so was I. And that's why they were doing it, because I was flying down from Vancouver on my Easter break from Waldorf school, because we got 2 weeks. So I could spend the time to train with, RD and Sora B and all the TDL and all those people. And and I heard last minute, oh yeah, P and BT are going to go through that with you. And I asked RD and B if you guys could come to the house for a few days and hang out with me. And you guys came. I still have all the photos. Well, some of them were stolen with my stuff, but yeah. And we had this great couple days where we all got to hang out. We got to go see the Matrix movie at its release.
In the theater.
To listen to visual audio sensory theater by Vast that's when my proctor, who's my guy, what's his name? I have a photo of him, but I forget his name. He left shortly after. And
Michael?
Then, of course. Yeah.
Michael. PCL? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. He was cool. Yeah.
He introduced us to Vast, and then TDL took us to Matrix. I think it was No, maybe it was PCL and RD and Sonia who took us to the Matrix. But I for some reason I think Ramses was there, but maybe it wasn't. He might not have been. I can't remember. But we saw it and it was mind blowing, and then we went through Portal together, and that was so awesome. That was one of the best.
I remember RD was into Vast.
Because of PCL. I woke up on the sofa one day because he had heard it on the radio that day, went to the store, bought the CD, brought it to the big house, put it on, and it woke me up off my off the sofa. And I woke up to hearing Touched for the first time. Yeah. I actually just found an old recording of me playing Flames and put it on my music YouTube. It's just a short clip of me doing it in 2018.
That whole album is great.
Fucking amazing. I got to know John Crosby, the singer, quite well. We became friends for a while. He's just down in Seattle. He almost came up for a gig and to do a gig with us where we would do his music as the band and he would sing it. And that almost happened.
Cool.
That would have been so cool, man. I was really hoping that would happen. I saw him play at Richards on Richards in 2000, 2001 as well. And that was cool as well, because I went through Portal with you, introduced to his band. Then he came up and played at one of our smallest legendary clubs, now gone. And I got to see him on stage. And he did something, that I'll never find someone quite like you again. That part.
Yeah.
So he did something that I wasn't that surprised by, but I was surprised when he sang that line, the big song, I'll never find someone quite like you again. I'll never find someone quite as touched as, and then he said, me again. Yeah. Anyway, it was a good moment because it reminded me of all of that we had been through. And it was funny because, he changed the lyric to be like super narcissistic, and that was really funny. But the band was beautiful. He looked beautiful. It was an amazing, amazing memory. All tied in together to that whole that whole time in Portal, which was a long time for me. I was in Portal 2 years. You were in there much less time before being elevated. Um, yeah, that was a long journey. I grew up a lot during Portal for sure. Are you frozen?
All right, I'm back. I'm sure
From
that
outer
got
space.
the cloud got it. So I'll check out the changes he made in that performance later. But or if you can tell me again. So he changed the lyrics?
Yeah, to me instead of you, to me. And I was
Oh,
like, you did it. You did it.
the way
Why'd
that
you
I
do
love
that?
me.
I'll never find someone quite like me again. But he was so young at that time. That was when he was still really young and beautiful, like
That's
just like
funny.
on the album cover. So it was like this closest I'll probably get to a Jim Morrison kind of performance in our generation.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's a shame his band exploded the way it did, but at least he got it back together and
Oh.
released. He's still releasing great music to this day. I'm still a big fan of his.
I only really delved in. I mean, I listened to that one album probably hundreds of times, but I don't think I've listened to his other music actually, but I'm sure it's good.
Check out John Crosby, JONCROSBY.com. Check out his hotel song. It's pretty chill.
Okay.
You might like it.
Okay.
Check out the hotel song.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah, it was great. I was saying while you were frozen that it was a long time for me in Portal, and of course you went to 5-6 in the meantime.
Hmm.
But yeah, but that period in my life, going out of the outer order into the inner with you guys, you and P, and that was probably yeah, it's a special time, man. We were all so hardcore doing the work, and yeah, I hope other people
Portal
get to
was
have something
beautiful.
similar to those experiences.
I mean, there were people who would get up to Portal and then, get worked to death trying to prove themselves and then being told, you're just not second order material. Like maybe we'll talk about it again in 5 more years. And
Well,
like,
Zink went all
spending,
super Catholic, like it was nuts. He was
right.
like
Well, there was a
talking about
phase
Opus Dei.
apparently. Yeah, yeah. So he was trying to take care of his dad. He was trying to heal his dad, and his dad was super Catholic. So he reverted back to Catholicism more so than he had before. And then he started dating a new age, like guruess around 2009. And
Oh
then
wow,
so
really?
he went full new age, like crystal seeker, like DNA activation crystal on his blasting rod. And then but TDL meanwhile had stayed in full Catholic zone. So then by that time, it was he was the Catholic and he was the New Age nut. And so so he went through phases. I mean, for sure, we and I were you and I were victims of his hardcore Catholic phase, but he had more phases after that. Now he's doing whatever he's doing. But
He
anyway, what
seems
was I
way
saying?
happier now.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Piyu found him on YouTube and was like, "Is this your old cult leader?" I'm like, "Oh my god!" Yeah. So,
Well, failed cult leader. Like he never. If you
yeah,
were gonna run a cult, you would do a bunch of things. He never did any of those things.
right. Nobody ever drank
Not in
poison,
my
just
opinion.
his cum. Yeah.
You guys did apparently years later. That's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah,
I don't know why you didn't beat the shit out of him.
right. Well, he did a thing, and he made everybody. So he gave everybody tincture of gold, and he put it on everybody's tongue on their way into the Peace in Jerusalem ritual that he had me lead. And then afterward, he came into the office with me and the adepts that ran the Chicago
And told
temple, and he
you.
was like, and told us, so that now we were part of this hideous thing that he had just done. He made us part of it so that but then it ended up kind of like that was one of the main cracks that resulted in a schism that happened a couple
Yeah.
years later was
Yeah.
doing that to people like
Dude, I
psychologically.
think
Now
I
you
would
have to
like to
keep my
think,
secret, kind of thing.
I mean, he's lucky no one beat him to death over that.
Yeah, my god. Yeah,
I
he
think
was
most people
scummy. he took money from people. He scammed. He
Yeah.
manipulated people and used the threat of paranoia and black magic and stuff like that. But as far as I know, he didn't literally actually rape anyone, and he didn't kill anyone. So it's like he's that sort of person. There's a sort of person who will like do terrible things, but then still think they're a good person because they don't cross these lines, you know. And so it's like, all right, well, he could probably, you know, get in trouble with the law if they found out all the stuff he did, but he probably wouldn't go to jail for the rest of his life. So he wasn't like that level. He wasn't a Manson. He wasn't a Jim Jones. It's like
No.
there's shades of gray of scummy cult leaders, you know. But
Oh yeah, I met way worse people in the corporate world, in the church world, in the government, definitely. Like I've had some major government officials say things to me recently since COVID started that would make your blood run cold.
mm-mm,
Like like cold. And you're like, "Oh, wow. You want us
mm,
all dead." It's like, "Yeah, we want all of you dead." For sure.
wow.
There's people in our
Mm,
government that want certain people, like certain races, dead, like
mm,
soft genocide. And they've said it to my face. I've had them say to
mm,
my face, "You're not meant to have a home or family. That's what immigrants are for." It's
mm,
like, I think you're allowed to believe that, but you shouldn't say it out loud,
mm.
right?
Oh my
Like,
God.
probably shouldn't say that because now I'm going to repeat it on podcasts for the rest of my life. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh no.
I mean, that's a horrible thing to say, but we literally have people in our government running the show who actually think in those sort of misanthropic terms. It's really sad.
Mm,
And no, so I've met people way worse than think was bad. People like Griffin did bad things to me. But whatever. And they have successors also currently just trying to destroy my life in every way they can, refusing to give me back property, all that shit. Like, so this is human behavior is my point. This is human behavior.
yeah.
It's not because it's just, I think it's just more painful in the spiritual arena. It's just more painful.
Yeah.
That it's
Mm,
not
mm,
any worse. It's just more painful. Yeah.
hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, there's behavior that is frowned upon, but then when it's in a spiritual context, it's way more frowned upon. But also very common. Yeah. It's
Well, I think that's why traditions that don't like pardon the word because I know you're living in India and this word is different there than it is here, but like people who like guruize themselves or want to become gurus, and I'm meaning this in the colloquial pop
yeah.
culture way, not in the
Yeah, no,
traditional
there's a lot of
literal way
scummy.
of India.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah.
there's people who want to be the guru. They want to be seen as that. And like, thank God the Golden Dawn tradition and the Hermetic traditions reject that in their fundamental core spirituality, right?
Mm,
Like the guide on the way of Hermes is not your noose or daimon. That's
mm,
your noose and your daimon is your noose and your daimon, not some
right.
fucking asshole.
Yeah, yeah.
And as soon as they say otherwise, they're a fraud. They're a charlatan, right? As soon as they
Yeah,
gatekeep try to gatekeep your higher consciousness. Oh yeah, gatekeep my higher consciousness, motherfucker. Let's see how that
right.
goes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's see how that goes. It's not
Mm,
going to go well. It never
mm.
does. Yeah.
Like that
So,
short story I wrote called Egregore in Small Mouse. I am your higher self, mortal. That's why I wear this red robe, and you must kneel before me and take an oath. You know.
well, I hope you check out Hermetica 1 by Dr. M. David Litwa. Hermetica 1, he retranslated everything from Greek,
Mm,
retranslated the Nag Hammadi Hermetica fragment on the eighth and the ninth,
mm,
the Ogdoad and stuff, re-edited it and organized it as he believes it should have been read as a pathway of initiation into the way of Hermes. And so he
mm.
put out it's a big 65,000 word book. I usually have it next to me, but not today. You want to know what I have next to me today?
Hmm.
This is a
Oh,
different
you were
kind of
going to read
initiation.
something.
This is a different kind of initiation book.
Oh, wow.
Have you read this? You need to read
No,
this.
no.
I just read it when I need to be cheered up. So Hermetica 1 by Dr. David Litchfield. Everyone should check it out. I really want to evangelize it. He let me do the Audible audiobook recording of it. I got a brand new Neumann microphone to do it, like top notch. Busted ass, used my like sound curtains here. I had a baffle in front of me for the sound. It did it all right. Had a buddy who's a pro sound designer do post production. Well, he just edit, and it's great. You can check it out. Hermetica 1 on Audible by Dr. M. David Litwa, narrated by yours truly.
Nice.
If I could be remembered for one thing after I die, I hope it's that.
Now, you said something about you were going to read one of my poems.
I'd love to read one of your poems anytime. Do you want a taco or do you want a fucking burrito?
I don't know. I read something from Taco on Chicken Philosophy recently, so maybe burrito.
Burrito.
So for those who don't know what we're talking about, you can find these links in the description below. The stuff that we're promoting specifically today is up at the top. This is below, further down.
Taco and a burrito. It's a taco and a burrito. And know what else? I have one other show and tell. So this other thing, know what this is? This is rare. This is a rare as fuck book now called Bang Bang 6.
Oh, okay.
And the triple X does represent porn.
Triple X, right? Yeah.
That's why this is written by co-written by Melissa Meyer, but it's mainly written by John Crosby, the singer of Vast.
Oh, okay. Huh.
And it's about a band in the near future. So basically it was written 20 years ago, so it's like set in now basically. Yeah. And it's shot his prescience is shocking. And like all the band's music videos have basically become porn and snuff films. Everyone earns their living by watching screens and ads so that they can go to the store and get a red drink. Who knows what's in the red drink? It's just red. They work at factories where they just pull levers to slaughter, gene-engineered animals for mass. I don't know. It's wild. It's very dark, but it's very beautiful. I just had to show that because most people don't know this book exists. And I'd love to send to people. I'd love John Crosby's novel to get out there a bit more. So you said taco or burrito?
Burrito.
Burrito. The burrito. I'm a bigger fan of tacos than burritos, if you know what I'm saying. Obviously,
do you have any favorites, or you want to pick one at random?
Oh, bibliomancy all the way. This one, bibliomancy.
Okay.
No religion. We got no religion. Oh, the Rosicrucians. Should I do that?
Yeah, whichever.
Oh, no real. Okay, yeah. Okay, February 15th, 2022. That's the start of the poem, I believe.
February.
It's hard to tell where your poems start and end.
Oh, the date
Page
is
410.
Okay.
Page 410.
Yeah.
Man, it's a hot night. Left turn. Are you ready?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's silly. I was watching the news or something.
Do you want me to do this one?
Oh, however, I'll say left turn 1. Question. Is Qatar among the countries with their noses lodged firmly into the butt of Xi Jinping and the CCP? Answer, yes.
Question. Do they care about the genocide of the Muslim Uyghurs in Xinjiang? Answer, no.
Question. Are they taking advantage of YouTube's new no dislikes policy and deleting every comment except for those of the 50 Cent Army posing as various demographic representatives agreeing with Qatar's feigned outrage at the U.S.'s less than total surrender to the will of the CCP? Answer, fully.
I'm not sure what to do with that information, but since YouTube decided to rub that information all over my face. I don't know. I felt like pointing it out. Free Tibet.
Now, the Rosicrucians. Oh, okay. Well, there's that's okay. Okay. So two, I feel I should clarify for those who don't know me after that last poem. I love China deeply, and I am also a fan of Karl Marx. Mao and the CCP, not so much. Now, what's this Rosicrucians? I don't remember writing it.
Three. Can I start it?
Yeah, sure.
3. Here, I'll give you the audible voice. The Rosicrucians. I decided to go with Mozart's Requiem for the Confessio, rather than the orchestral Zelda I was using for the Fama. Confessio is a bit more grouchy, where Fama was kind of inspirational, adventurous, sweet. Also coming down from the astral into Malkut, responding to the backlash from the Fama. The cynic in me feels the golden age of RC died after the Fama was published. After Confessio, it's hard to point to anything genuine coming from them. So many charlatans, they seem to be emphasizing the end is near aspect of it. And Mozart did say, I fear I am composing a requiem for myself, a mass for the death of someone who hasn't died yet, seeing how the spirit of adventure, commitment to truth, emphasis on changing positions with new evidence, it's no wonder the tradition led to Isaac Newton.
4. No religion. I can see why Marx said it. In pre-biblical times and in many places today, the church, temple, whatever, is state. Secondary to that, it's a big and powerful influence on state. Russia tried and succeeded to make their church an instrument of their version of communism, albeit by the sword, or in this case, the gun to the head. Oh, Mao's approach was like Mohammedan communism, smash the idols, which has its echoes today in the internment camps for Muslims in the Northwest, the harvesting of the organs of Falun Gong, Tibetan Buddhists, Christians for the rich, a hard call, allowing religion to exist but dismantling the structure around it, within it, is some advanced kind of surgery that no one yet seems to have accomplished. Hearing my friend's account of stories passed down secretly in hushed tones, how the mob dragged her grandma and all her great aunts and cousins out of their homes and murdered them for being upper-classed, put a really sour taste in my mouth about Mao. Early feminism may be a positive, and the propaganda was pretty at times, but not enough to call a redeeming quality. It's hacker versus hacker out there. Mr. Robot was a nice fantasy, season 1 I mean, an upgraded Fight Club, but still at this point it's dated. The hackers can't get along, it's not in their nature. Some are good, others better, some sell out, some pure hatred, some terrible. Prayer may not help the situation, but it can help the soul as we rack our brains trying to come up with a real solution. Anger leads to bloodshed, which leads to resentments, which leads to rot from within, if not immediate intervention from without.
5. Much of Lord Buddha's original message seemed to be to give back the power to the individual, which had been taken by the upper caste. Psychological, spiritual power, anyway. Being wandering beggars seemed the only solution for him and JC and the disciples. Only lays the foundation for religion as a parasite. On one hand, once the children in Africa mine enough tungsten and everything is automated, there will be the possibility of overarching system. There will be those who miss the old system. They can go live outside. Then it's Brave New World, something more akin to real democratic socialism. A cap on the ceiling, a cap on the floor, Congratulations, you won capitalism. You're set for life, but you're not allowed to play anymore. For the Bezos types, basic food, clean water, medicine, shelter for those at the bottom. Seems anything on a too large scale will strike as Big Brother. Detached, uncaring, robot father thing. Small scales can get weird too. Interesting how likes have as much value as currency. Power structures found a way to disseminate that too. Algorithms heavy preference to the old media heavyweights. CBS shows we don't subscribe to recommended before Joe Schmoes we do as much as sheeple has become overused. Perverted by QAnon types. It is accurate. Those with the power are the shepherds. Through Bernaysian propagandizing, democracy is little different from totalitarianism.
All right, that's a good place.
February 24th, 2022. That's a great poem. I'm so glad the Lords of Kabul guided us bibliomantically towards it.
Yeah.
All praise the Lords of Kabul.
Woohoo! The Lords of Kabul?
I think that's the Battlestar Galactica thing.
Oh, yeah.
It just popped
in the middle
into my
of watching that. Yeah.
Oh, well,
Cobalt.
Shame on
Cobalt.
you.
The Lords of Cobalt. Yeah.
Cobalt.
Yeah, what a great
Kabul
show.
is Cobalt meets Thule Society.
I miss seeing it for the first time. That and The Expanse, because I've seen The Expanse 4 times at this point. The whole
Is it
show.
that good?
Oh, I love The Expanse. Oh, it's so good.
It seems.
I
tried to get into it so slow.
Huh? You don't like slow things, I notice.
I do if they're good.
I guess. I like the hat guy in the beginning of Expanse season 1. He was a good, bridge for me to just kind of go along like it's Blade Runner. Just kind of like listen to that music and just kind of looking at the background stuff and not needing for anything to happen really.
I do want to watch The Expanse one day, but
the first season was the best.
In life.
Yeah, it's true. But Battlestar Galactica, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it. So, but I do miss when I felt like the mystery might be solved. The mystery was so good, but there was a little bit of that element of like Lost, where it's like, yeah, it's a mystery. Like the show's over. So what was the mystery? It sure was a mystery. Like, did they never explain it? No. So that's Starbuck was what? Box. I don't know.
That's the mystery box method of Jar Jar Abrams. It's like there's a mystery, and then there's another mystery, and there's another mystery. Is it ever resolved? No, because life's always an unresolved mystery. It's like because
people like David Lynch. How come when David Lynch does it, everybody likes it, but when I do it, people are like, "Oh, JJ."
Well, it's because David Lynch's mysteries are over usually within 2 hours, not 7 seasons or whatever it was.
That's true. Plus, it's more like he's like scrying into the abyss of his unconscious and then just translating it to cinema, which is different from sitting there intellectually thinking, now what would be a good David Lynch-like mystery? It's totally different thing.
And David Lynch is looking for a mystery that he has at least some inclination of what it is, whereas J.J. Abrams would just make up mysteries as a mechanism to get your attention and keep your attention, knowing that there was no promise ever to be had. There was no answer. So that makes that David Lynch at least was a pure, true seeker. J.J. Abrams turned out to be a charlatan who doesn't know the first thing about telling a story.
I did like Fringe, though, I have to admit.
It was filmed here. Like most, the old building where that they use as Harvard. That's my seminary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Where is his lab in the basement?
Yeah.
Oh, that was such a good
the outside
show.
of that building was where I went to seminary. Yeah. And Joshua Jackson, like a lot of my friends have had run-ins with him in town. And he's always apologized.
Really? Wait, now which one's Joshua Jackson?
The star.
Oh, a Fringe. So Pacey from that show about that Katie Holmes.
Yeah, he's from here. He's a Vancouver guy.
Okay. Now he was an older guy. Oh, the new Karate Kid. He was the love interest's dad in the new Karate Kid movie with Jackie Chan and Daniel San. It seems like nobody knows that exists. Yeah, because do you know about the Jackie Chan Will Smith's Karate Kid remake? They made a remake.
Yeah.
Years ago. And so what they did recently was they took the Cobra Kai universe and the Jackie Chan Will Smith's Kid universe and brought them together and into a new Karate Kid thing. And I just enjoyed it just for the idea of that, because like when I came to India,
that's an audacious move. And you know what?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it's fun. I did like the first 2-3 seasons of Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you love the original
eventually
Karate Kid, then yeah, that's true. But the original
Goa. I gotta have to write a song for you about Goa. Boom. Start composing it now while you're signing back in. Edward, wo bist du jetzt? Kann ich dich finden? Oh, bist du wiedergekommen? Du bist wiedergekommen.
Oh my
du
gosh,
bist wiedergekommen. Das ist urwunderbar. Ich habe dir ein schönes Spiel gespielt für dich, als du weg war. I played a beautiful song on the flute for you. Maybe it recorded and you can use it in the intro.
All right.
I guess it's, are the Lords of Kobol giving us a sign, or should we talk for 3 more hours?
Yeah, no, we can wrap up.
6-hour record.
We can wrap up, I think. Any final thoughts for the two people? Frater Quasar. Hi, Frater Quasar. And anybody else?
Did my student do well?
Yeah, no, he was good. It's a good one to check out. I'm just trying to imagine who would still be watching. There's probably a few people still watching.
Oh, everyone's going to watch this episode because they're going to wonder if we addressed the elephant in the room, and then they're going to get to this point and be like, "Why they didn't say anything about it?" And it's like, "Yeah, fuck off. We don't."
What's the elephant in the room?
Oh, just the remember when you told me that you saw your podcast as John the Baptist?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember what you said after that?
No. Well, that your podcast is
Blazing.
Jesus, right?
I love that you find that so like as a non-statement. You're just treating it like it's a non-statement. It's like, dude, what are you saying? But yeah, you were like, yeah, I see my podcast as blazing the way, because you had to tear down sort of the facades and the nonsense that had like a fungus, a black mold grown up out of our old order over the
Yeah.
years. I mean, it wasn't there when I joined that I could see. It wasn't definitely at Temple Tahuti. I mean, maybe it was in
Right.
the
It was
background,
a
but I didn't notice
California
it.
thing.
But
Yeah.
like we had to, all of Canada had to separate in 2003, 2004, and then you guys kept going, and things just got crazier and crazier. It sounded like I wasn't there, so I don't know. Um,
Mm,
but
mm,
but then you created that podcast, and and you started doing rituals on live stream, and I messaged you after a show one night when you were doing after you did rituals, like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're doing this publicly on live. You're like, yeah, and you we had a long talk and we reconnected,
mm,
and then you wanted me to be on your podcast, and I was, and sadly the first episode didn't record, and also Joe couldn't make it. I think about Joe all the time. Let's
mm.
think about Joe Shantz, man, one of the best of us for sure. God rest his soul, man. But then, yeah, I started listening to your podcast in 2018 and getting in touch, and I realized how much guests of yours were mentioning me. And I was like, I haven't been in the scene since
Mm.
2003. Why is anyone talking about me? But they were, and they were mentioning me by name, saying how much abuse I had taken and how bad that was, but also how brilliant they thought I was, and that was really flattering. And I thought, okay, well, I had planned to get back into teaching and balance music and teaching again, and so I did. And it was a long journey, especially with COVID and everything. But yeah, I'm sure people. And then when I was on tour in doing my book tour and lecture tour in 2018, you handed over to me the GD Universum,
Mm.
and I'm sorry that the drama hit you, man. But I think some people they uh, they they they
Well,
knew
there's
that
this
you'd given it to
idea,
me.
like, okay, if a person, it's that whole thing of like, I'm impoverished. I just live in an order that's rich. So a person can believe that they are operating with no ego as long as they're the head of a temple and they're doing it in the name of the group. That this is for the community, which is my group, and other communities which are exactly like and willing to completely agree with my group. And you, sir, you left our group. I think we were talking about that idea of seniority, that you had already been left. You were already a heretic before this person started on the path. That, I mean, God bless. We both love you, like the person we're talking about. But because you are solo, because you are not in an order, because you are doing a thing that's based on kind of what, the traditional idea, like that makes you Crowley. That makes you starting your own brand new thing, and you're charging for your teachings. So you're a capitalist. You've got all the worst aspects of Robert Fink and Aleister Crowley. You're starting your own occult thing that's just made in the image of you, where you just get on there and talk all your stuff that you like to talk, and now you've kicked out all the people who are protecting the community from it just becoming a self promotion vehicle for you. So now it's just it's just a total. It's just your propaganda tool for your group to get everybody to sign up for your. Is that basically it?
I mean, I'm sad to see them, people who are losing power interpret things that way. But the fact is, like, there's a lot of confession through projection going on. But the bottom line is, you know, uh, I let one person in to co-admin with me. I trusted them. And then when I was gone from their place and had to leave a few precious, precious, precious things behind,
Mm.
they started letting in all their friends, who then started banning and deleting posts about me, including my recent conference, banning the translator of my book, Sora B, and doing what they wanted, knowing that I wouldn't say anything because they had my property, and if I said anything, I would never get it back.
Mm.
So I got tired of being manipulated and bullied and abused, And I said, fuck it. Okay, maybe I'll never get my property back now, but I'm not going to let you fucking bully me anymore or abuse my students and just and treat things this way. It's just it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And and you know, I said, like, look, when I let you in to be a co-admin with me, I trusted you. That was a huge sign of trust. Otherwise, I would have made them a moderator, right? And they knew that you had given me the group, but they're pretending that you didn't. They're pretending that you didn't. And it's like, you know, you asked me to keep you out of it when you gave it to me. You were like, you said, Elegwin, I don't want anything to do with this. Please take it from me. Take this burden from me. Right?
Yeah.
Back to your absurd Jesus and John metaphor, you madman. Jesus Christ, you're such a crazy person. But yeah, and it's like, you knew that, and they wanted, but by pretending that you didn't give it to me, they were able to play to their crowd that I was somehow some kind of villain, which is nonsense. And plus, you have my property. Give me my property back. I asked to ship it to me when I had 20 grand in my bank account after my sister died selling her skydiving gear. Crickets, and I have all the receipts. So it's sad that that happened. I'm sorry that some of it touched you a little bit, because you gave me that group to keep you out of it, man. And I've brought in moderators from the Cicero Order. I brought in Nick Farrell as a moderator. I've brought in lots of people. It's going to stay an inclusive group. It's going to and no longer be controlled by the ex proteges.
Yeah.
Like they really I hope the people in groups, GDCSS, GDF, I hope they realize that they can be good groups, and that they just need to get rid of these scumbags who are one of them. I had my best friend join their order. They forced him to give a year of his dues and then cut him off. A year of dues and then cut him off. They're defrauding people of money. Tell them you're my friend, they'll probably treat you better. He's like, yeah, but do I want to be in a group where the only reason they don't rob me is because you're my friend? I'm like, good point. Good point.
God.
So maybe they should clean house before they start casting aspersions and trying to destroy my life, like so many others have tried to do ever since I got involved in this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my sister was raped by 2 adepts who now run temples. And she's dead now. And I want the gift she gave me back. I want the gifts Lisa gave me back. I want the gifts an ex-girlfriend who's now dead. 3 dead people have given me gifts, and they're sitting in Rochester. And I'm not allowed to have them for 6 years. And you get to do whatever you want, because I'm afraid that if I say anything, I will never get my things back. That's evil. That's pure evil. I love you. I said this in the messages. I'm happy to release all messages we've ever shared. Leave me alone. Stop attacking me, attacking my friends. Go do your own thing. And give me my stuff back. I'm tired of people keeping my property. 4 different groups have my property in their possession, and they use wild justifications for it. They say angels told them to do it. They say, oh, you know, you're fat and you're a faggot, so you don't deserve to have this stuff. I have all these messages. I don't release them because I don't want to destroy these groups. Man, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I guess whoever stuck around to the end is in for a treat, because it turns out I did address it. Wow, there you go.
Yeah,
there
my
you
God.
go.
Yeah, well, it's good to get these things.
It feels good, actually, to say it, man. It feels good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not being specific too much because I don't want to hurt anybody, but like, you can only abuse someone like me for so long before I'm eventually going to bite back. You know, you can't treat people this way. It's evil. My sister was told by people I won't name that the secret chiefs said she had to marry certain guy, so she allowed him to do things that and she was shamed the way you were shamed. She said, and then when she told me that the secret chiefs had shared this, she was shamed, saying, you are the worst person here because you shared secret knowledge that the secret chief said you had to marry this person. So you're the bad person for sharing messages from the secret. This is evil cult shit. This is cult shit. It's sexual abuse cult shit. And all those adepts out there who are like, oh yeah, we always knew this group was like that. Well, maybe you should have said so before I let my mom and sister join, eh? You know? Don't mock what you knew was going on when you hid it from people like me. I could have saved my sister's life. You know? Right? I really could have. But no, you didn't tell me this stuff was going on. So I let my friends and family in. And now I'm trying to do things in a healthier way. I went and did my Masters of Divinity. I trained in churches. I learned how to behave ethically and how to do these things in a healthy way. And you're going to shame me? I got 20 people in that order who don't ever get talked anything or talk to a proctor ever. They just pay money and they get no contact. Because I've sent dozens and dozens of people to those groups since I started my podcast. Because I wasn't teaching. But people kept being so abused and coming back to me saying, would you please teach me? I joined this group, paid them all this money, and got nothing. And it's like, yeah, okay, fine. Let's do it. Let's do it. My sister's dead now. I got nothing else to do. Let's rock and roll. But mainly I'm excited about the future because there's all this great scholarship going on. There is a lot of people think there's like Golden Dawn has all this drama. It's really just a couple groups. It's a couple groups and a couple people who identify with that being in charge. Don't identify with anything. It splits your psyche into two. Object identification. You ever read about object identification? That's a revelation. It splits any identifying with anything. Splits your psyche. Freud said so. Jung. I think this is one of the few psychological theories that all of these people agreed with. It's one of the few psychological theories that everyone's like, "Yep, that's true." You know?
I mean, that ties back into the usefulness of like, I am a former Golden Dawn adept, hence I wear this outfit, and I'm called Frater BT. Okay, let's take that off now. Okay, I'm a crazy asshole who just is an artist, and I say whatever the fuck I want. I'm called Gwydion. Okay, let's take that outfit off now. Okay, I am a wannabe Buddhist monk, solo, path. You can call me Pymander. Oh, I'll take all that off. I'm a normal human being. I'm an American who emigrated to India, and my name's Edward, and I wear a normal shirt like a normal person. Okay, take that off. I am none of these. I am all of these. And then my psyche is split temporarily, just for certain hours of the day while I do a performance, and then because life, all the world is a stage and everything.
I love it. I love you. And you know what's really funny, brother? You want to know what's really funny? Because I haven't been hyper specific, neither of us have, out of respect. When I talk about these people who have my property, the reason no one will know who it is because of how many different Golden Dawn groups and adepts currently have my property. I've been robbed so many times by people like this that it's actually, there's three different, and one of them even forged my signature on bank documents and incorporation documents, and I have proof that they did that. I don't do anything about it because, well, I actually do believe in turning the other cheek. But you can only when they banned my translator from Golden Dawn Universum, and when they banned when deleted posts that were being made about my conference, then it's like, okay, I'm sorry. I can't just stand here smiling while you do me up the ass. I'm sorry. It's enough. And people were like, oh, doing what you did was disrespectful to BT. It's like, he gave it to me, asked not to be involved, and you're now bringing him into this. And you knew this. I told everyone involved that this was my thing now, to leave him alone. But no, that was not their pathway to power. They're like, oh, we'll have to pretend that RC is just this piece of shit whose property we won't give back to him. And then we'll take power knowing that he can't say anything because we're holding on to his property as fucking ransom. Scumbags. Fucking scumbags. Yeah. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to say all this, but
No, it's good. I mean, that's what this hat's all about is speak your mind even if
that's
it's
why you
unpleasant.
gave me Gwydion. That's why I
Yeah,
got Gwydion
yeah.
tonight, not Edward. Like, it's like, yeah, I want to rise above this and put this in the past, but like, give me back my shit. I know I won't get it back from all three groups that have my shit,
Yeah, I mean,
but
well,
this one guy
like
can give me
Jung,
back my shit.
rising above is different from pretending something doesn't exist. Like, I mean, you got to go through something to come out the other side sometimes. And and if you let something fester, then it just drags you down from behind the scenes. You can't shine as bright because you're not acknowledging the darkness inside that's pulling you down. So you got all the darkness out. Okay. This is on my mind. I got this axe to grind. It's grinded and guaranteed all the people, or at least one of them, that this is about heard it, and it's sad. I mean, it's that whole like, and I watched it happen, and the thing is, I'm not even paying attention, but I saw it happen anyway. Like a couple years ago, suddenly there's this movement toward like I started getting random comments on my ritual videos saying, "What makes you think it's okay to do this on YouTube?" I'm like, okay, anonymous person, like, where are you coming from? Why do you think it's okay to be like enforcing something from 1890 in 2023? Like, why do you think that in order to be on a path and respectful toward a tradition that you have to do it in exactly the same, specifically culty way? Like, take the cultiest part and make sure you hold that in highest regard up above the sharing of knowledge or any other kind of context. Like the idea that wanting to actually share without barriers and without boundaries between communities of solo practitioners, of those in groups that maybe aren't as culty, that is somehow bad and Crowley-ish, and that being the most traditional with a capital T and with a lock and seal and a strict vow of secrecy, and don't forget the vow of secrecy, and only get the information from your teacher, not from books, and certainly not from some podcast, that's better, that's more respectful to the community, or like, what community? The one, like, it's frustrating, it's infuriating, and the fact that like someone could like not realize that would be infuriating to you and I, to me especially, that, like you said, someone who doesn't know me, someone who somehow managed to listen to the Esoterinerd podcast without hearing it, without actually hearing what I'm saying, who's like, will look at me and look at my picture, and then think, oh, maybe he and I could start a Golden Dawn order together. Like, okay, you don't know who this is. You have no idea who BT is or what he's said ever once, even a little bit, like, wow, shit. So I got a little bit off my chest too. So
good catharsis.
Yeah.
How do we wrap this up now? Because
with love,
we rewarded those who listened to the end and they got their cheddar.
Light the way and let it flee. This trouble come to me.
I'm sure they'll find a way to spin this or something. Some way. But I just again, yeah. I've had to rebuild my life multiple times now from it being torn down by other people, first 22 years ago, and then again in 2014, and then again in 2017, and then COVID was a real kick in the balls. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? Like, once you've had to rebuild your life 3 times, like, I was a millionaire for a long time, and people found out, took it all away. It all away, just took it. They just took it. And then, to go from being worth millions to being like literally sleeping on the street overnight, that's a reality check. As they say, I got mugged by reality.
That's fucked.
Yeah. And can you imagine? But hey, we're doing good things. The lesson of the Hyrus, for all you might mock some of his words today. The ultimate lesson is true perseverance.
Yeah,
Don't give up.
persistence and perseverance.
Don't give up, because you have faith.
Well,
Peter Gabriel there. Cut the Peter Gabriel
my piece of Golden Dawn dogma is that I like to hold fast to is, except by permission of the chiefs of the Second Order. And for all the shit he did, one mistake that Robert made was to declare that I was a chief of the Second Order. And and then I see the many examples, including his example, including his exes and all the various imperators that went off and founded their own orders. If that's what a chief adept can do, then surely I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can wear a lawman on Esoterinerd. I can do my rituals. I can talk about stuff, and I've even bleeped out the names of sensitive, and not even revealing anything pertinent, except for those who know will know. But
I think if the original Golden Dawn members, bohemians that they were, could digest in one spell everything, all your creative output over your life and all your good and less good deeds, perhaps, I think they would be very honored to be contributors to what you've done with your life.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, you're incredibly creative and inspiring, dude. Yeah, we're all flawed, but the good you've done and the creativity you continue to bring to the world. I mean, we're lucky. We're lucky. You don't have to do any of this. Neither of us have to do any of this.
There we go.
You have McGregor Mathers ring on your finger. That's impressive. And someone offered,
thanks to you.
Thanks to me, because someone said you should buy this, and if they had sent that link to me now, I would have bought it. But I sent it to you. I was like, hey, buddy, if you got a little extra cheddar, here's a $1 billion ring you can buy. And sure, you did. I didn't think you would, of course, but if anyone should have it, I think it's you. Because you're a wild man that both you're like a prophet, man. You're like a modern Golden Dawn prophet who both praises the Lord and lambasts him in the same sentence. You praise the system. You're a product of this strange thing we call the GD tradition. Somehow. Yeah. Well, all of them. That was a great name. Yeah. I shouldn't have stopped using that. That was the best name. Yeah, that was a good name, actually. That was a good name. It's a shame how many that people had to do all that, mess with the name and stuff.
Yeah.
It's the way of Hermes, and the way of Hermes was just that iteration in Alexandria at that time that developed in a certain sociocultural context, and its only goal was to really teach reverence of nature and God, and uniting with your own sense of the divine through Thanksgiving, right? Through Thanksgiving. And it's just a shame that people focus on they don't focus on the main thing so much. They focus on the things that fade with this life, like power, status, and and that's a shame. But we have things like poetry to save us. We have art and music, and that's the stuff that matters to me. That's why I love what you do, because you're a creative, poetic, wild man. And I'm loving the study of the Black books, because I never really read Jung. He's like the only guy I didn't read.
Yeah, me neither. But I'm starting with the Black books, and then my understanding was that he had. He read The Serpent Power, which was a translation of one particular, like Gita or whatever, from the 1500s that talked about the 7 chakras and the Kundalini and all that. And then so Carl Jung read that, and then he gave a lecture called The Psychology of Kundalini, and that became a book that all these people read in the 1920s. And then that became the foundation upon which every yoga teacher at every corner yoga studio holds as dogma. This a lot of the assumptions that Carl Jung made about the chakras, about Kundalini. And so if you go into one of these places and say, well, yeah, 7 chakras or 5 or 8 or 10, whatever, they'll say, no, 7. And it's like, oh, because Carl Jung read that one book that one time and gave that one lecture. What are you talking about? Yeah, you don't know. You don't know where your dogma even comes from. So what I want to do is get to know Carl Jung by reading the Black Books, read the Serpent Power myself, then read the Psychology of Kundalini, do it all openly so that I can show my work open source, like through Chicken Philosophy, in order to be able to articulately explain how what they think is Indian philosophy is actually Carl Jung, or it's 40% Carl Jung and 60% Indian philosophy or something like that. And so anyway, but then along the way, I may discover different things and I might come to a completely different conclusion in the end. Like starting to accept Carl Jung as a Gnostic prophet and as much of the real thing as anybody who authored any of the books in the Nag Hammadi.
The Red Book changed all of that, right? The Red Book.
I mean, I haven't read the Red Book, but I'm reading the source, because the Black Books were his like notes that he made before he put together
I
the
haven't
Red
read
Book.
any of it. I haven't read any of it.
Yeah. So rather than, because people would show me the Red Book and try to explain it to me, but I was such a Golden Dawn dogmatist that they'd be like, yeah, it's all very occult. I'm like, what's occult about this? It looks like one, self-important psychiatrist did a bunch of scribbling and made up a bunch of stuff, And they're like, yeah, that's what occultism is. And I'm like, no, it's not. What does this correspond to? Why is this here? Who's this old man?
Yeah.
Well, that's the man that used to talk to him in his dreams. And I'm like, great, good for him. What the fuck is it doing on anything that considered a cult? And so, but now I'm starting to like back up and go, like now I have enough space and enough of a, I'm not like, I think what it was I was in that same position of having to maintain and justify the idea that I am an authority in the one true and holy Golden Dawn. And, therefore, if somebody says something that I'm unfamiliar with, I got to make it wrong. It's that sort of impulse where if somebody had read more books than he had, then he had to find a reason to kick them out.
That was actually one of the moment I knew that I couldn't go further in our inner order was we were in what was that German town called?
Leavenworth.
Yeah, and we were having one of our big dinners. You were there.
Mm.
I think you were there. Maybe not, because
probably. I was there every year. Yeah.
Okay. So, and we were having a big dinner table, and I heard from the end of the table. He's like, "Does anybody know what Mirandola's first name was?" And everyone's like looking, and then someone points at me, and I look, and he's like, "I bet even RC doesn't know." I was like, "Yep, Mirandola's first name was Giovanni," and he's like, "Ha ha ha!" He just oh, you're frozen. Started laughing. Ha ha ha! No, he wasn't. You don't know what you're talking about. I still know the best. And he's like, his first name was Pico, and I'm like, oh shit. Like they're gonna mock me for knowing basic like historical shit, and I'm just in the first year of grad school. Imagine how bad it's gonna be once I'm like finished my PhD.
Yeah, that's like
for me here. Like
that's a demented form of anti-intellectualism.
Yeah, and then someone looked it up and eventually was like, "Oh, RC was right," but we all made fun of him in public at a table just to follow what our leader said. It's like, yeah, and I was like, okay, so like knowledge-wise, I've hit the limit of this entire group. There's no one here who's interested in knowing more than they know, and I need to find other places to develop my body, mind, and soul. And then the shit really hit the fan, of course, with the all the other stuff. But that was a lifetime ago, man. That was a lifetime ago. It's Pico, not Giovanni.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so bad. I actually felt bad for him because he was so wrong. I was like, oh shit, I was like, oh shit, he's gonna find out he's wrong. He's gonna feel bad. He's gonna feel angry about that, and then he's gonna put it back out on me, which sure enough he did, and it all came to a climax at my wedding, of course, as we all know.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. What he did to me at my wedding, that whole fiasco, pure evil.
I don't think I remember
evil.
that.
He called all of the adepts who had made it to my... First of all, I arranged the wedding and canceled it and rescheduled it multiple years in a row. Arranged babysitters and house sitting and all the expenses for everyone. I paid $30,000 for it. And then, just as my reception was starting, he called up Ramses and all the other adepts and my friends at the wedding and told them to leave immediately because they had to come down to Seattle and talk to GM.
Oh.
What a...
God.
After all the talk about family and honor, and we're
What year was that?
2003, June 12th, July 12th, 2003.
Oh my God, where was I?
So after all those years of hearing this talk about, the body of Christ and corpus sanguis vinculum, after all that, to not show up and then to pull away the few people who did show up, after making me delay it a year after year, pure evil, destroyed my life. Took me years to recover from that. Years. I lost everything. Everyone just, and it just got worse after that. The more abuse against my mom and my sister, just like nightmare fuel. Yeah. And it hounded her till she died, what was done to her. And these people
I don't remember where I was in June of 2003.
Well, you were definitely
I know.
invited to my wedding.
Yeah, but I wasn't up there though. I was
No.
I must have been.
Well, I didn't
California.
expect everyone to come. Like, I didn't. If everyone couldn't come, that was fine. But it was shocking, just shocking. It's like that was the moment where I knew that my life wouldn't be a beautiful, fun, happy experience like I had worked hard for it to be. That was the moment I knew it would be nonstop torture, hell, and punishment by everyone I thought I loved the most, including my family, because my family saw what was done to me there. And it gave my stepmom, who had been abusing me since I was 11, the power and the fuel to destroy me the rest of the way. And she did. She did. So not only did give... Oh. And I don't blame him as much as I even blame all the people who did what he told them to do. Weak-willed fools. Like, Ramses comes to my wedding and then walks out right at the beginning. Like... Where's your values? And now all this stuff, I owe them nothing. I owe them nothing.
Yeah.
Give me back my sister and then we'll talk. Telling her that she has to marry a guy she doesn't want to marry because the secret chiefs ordained it. Those people are still seen as spiritual leaders in large communities, all those people. And she's dead. She said jumping was the only way she could ever get a moment of relief from it all, from what they did to her. Rest in peace, Haley. I miss you.
Can I show the picture of her with my book?
Please. Oh my God, that's right. That exists. I don't even think I have that anymore.
Everybody just saw it.
Please.
All the people watching this just saw it on the screen.
Oh, man. All right, we should wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. All right, so they should click and sign up for this Friday. It's down in the description. And on that note, sign up now.
Need a vibe check. You need a vibe check. Go watch. Yeah, what we've built. What I've built is not for me or by me. It is It is a demonstration of how the force of the universe really does come into play when you're doing even a fraction of your true will. And so all the presenters, all the volunteers all have the community of people within the occulture, adepts, 2 senior adepts from the Cicero order. I have adepts from Griffin's order coming, and they're like some of my best friends. Like they're like some of my tightest. I really feel close to. They were there last year. Like to come in person this year. Like, you know, I don't hold a grudge. I'm not that kind of person. Like I never issued the members of Griffin's order just because he broke into my house and disrupted a neophyte initiation, assaulted my sentinel. You know, like I don't blame the members of that group for that. That's like, you know, should he apologize? Probably. Will he? No. Do I care? Not at all. You know, and so like people are coming together from all over because what we're doing and the way it's set up to function is amazing. It's an extramural, full undergraduate level esotericism program coming together, especially as more presenters put in their courses, and we're because of we're able to give it to people for 1/20th of what you would pay for a university program. So over you know spend 4 years in the Arcane Research Society. It's the equivalent to an undergraduate level education in esotericism, but not just academically, because it's outside of the universities, it's extramural. So that means all of the professors can present the information that would be of interest to occultists and practitioners and present it for those people without university controls and oversight, because the universities won't hire any of these people. Who knows why? Is it because a lot of them are white? Probably. Maybe not, maybe a little. So all these professors, a lot of them don't have jobs at universities anymore because they're not diverse enough, or because there's no esotericism departments or religion departments or anything. And I know I've conflated a lot of things there, but like all of those things I've heard directly from people. And I've been told from universities departments myself that I can't apply for even basic jobs because I'm not diverse enough. Which, go explain that one to me intellectually. If you can't, you can't. And I think we're at the point where we need to start calling it out, especially from the left. Like, you know, if you're like a liberal dude, you need to start calling out this insanity. Like, you're literally telling people they can't have jobs because they're straight white males, and you're referring to them as 3 strikers, as if we're 3 times criminals because of being these things. We've said everything else tonight. We may as well say that to get it on the record. Because it's real. It's real, and it's happening.
Interesting.
A lot to
I'm
think about.
gonna pull a Joe Rogan and just say, "Wow, really? Well, I don't know a lot about that." I'll just just let what you say go unchallenged, and if anybody wants to judge me based on what you said, they can feel free to do that. You know,
I doubt they will, honestly.
No, I mean, I am, of course, grateful for all the progress that's been made toward inclusivity of non-white, non-males. But obviously, yeah, a thing can go too far. And if it has gotten in one area or another, whether it be a university or whatever, if it's gotten to the point where they're forbidding straight white males, then yeah, that's fucked. Sure. I don't know whether that's happening or not. My guest today says it is. I love my guest. I don't love him so much that I'm going to say that everything he says is true, but I'm not gonna like have an argument about it just because I align as more lefter than he is. But yeah, those words are usually something people associate with like the critical drinker, or either enlightened centrists who lean right, or people on the right. But it's an interesting thing to put forward that people on the left need to challenge folks who are saying you're too straight white male to work here. Because if people on the left were to acknowledge that that is a thing that happens at times. I mean, when I was in Hollywood, I kept it to myself, but I noticed there's a lot of people that aren't white and aren't straight and aren't, like if they're white looking, they're wearing a yarmulke, that are getting promoted. And I've been applying for the same job for 10 years and not been getting the job. But I mean, I didn't want to be one of those guys that's like, oh, the poor straight white males being oppressed, so I kind of kept my mouth shut and eventually just I kind of lost my temper at one point. And so then I was kind of in the shit house. I was like, I was not being treated well, and I wasn't ready to quit. I needed to move some pieces around before I quit that job. So what I ended up doing was throwing myself on the mercy. I said, I need to talk to this other woman that I was her secretary, and Jewish lady, and then the Muslim lady that was my manager, and get them in a room. And I need to talk to you. I need to confess something, and but I need you to hear me out. And they were like, okay, what? And I said, I have issues with women in positions of authority. And they were like, what did you just say? And I was like, but I know that it's a me problem, and it's something I need help with. I have a knee-jerk reaction to an authoritative woman telling me what to do, and I have to, otherwise I'll get fired. That makes me feel like I want to, I don't know, punch something, like I want to scream, or and I can't, obviously, because that's inappropriate. I'm a cultured, civilized human being, but I had a very domineering mother, and I kind of threw her under the bus, but she's been gone for 20 years, and I'm sure she didn't mind. And so what ended up happening was I said, can this organization, this union in the entertainment industry that we all work for, pay to have me go to anger management classes to deal with my issues with women in positions of authority, because I need help. And then they were like,
story?
This is a true story. This happened, this is how I dealt with the situation I was in. And so they signed me up to do these conversations by phone during my lunch breaks. And there was this woman at Kaiser Permanente that was a psychiatrist. And I told her, okay, so here's what happened. And so I ended up saying that I had issues with women in authority so that they would leave me alone. And she laughed. And she was like, well, you seem like a very well-adjusted person to me. And that was a pretty intelligent move you made there, because now everybody leaves me alone. Now people walk by, they smile at me, because they're like, oh, the poor straight white male has issues with diverse women in positions of authority. He wants to be an ally, but he has those genes, he's a straight white male and he's struggling with it, and he wants to be a good person, and so I mean, I dealt with it in my way. It is it's one of those things, even Jon Stewart, when what's his name, Chappelle, when Chappelle was making waves talking about Jewish, shouldn't be a topic that gets shut down just for existing. That's one thing Chappelle's right about, is we should be able to talk about this. We should be able to joke about this without people freaking out about getting fired, without people calling people anti-Semite. It is a fact that there are a lot of, there is the disproportionate amount of Jewish folks that are behind the scenes running things in Hollywood, and there are historical reasons for that. And, there are results of that. And there are biases.
We wouldn't let them into any other industry.
Exactly. And those South Park guys came out and finally
bankers,
put it. Yeah.
You can run banks or carnivals. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And carnivals evolved into Hollywood.
This is really not a right or left problem, in my opinion. This is like a academia problem. Dr. Justin Sledge, who's Jewish, his professor just got fired from his university. He did a big campaign to try and get him reinstated and to call out the university, and said he would not give up until this is well known in the world. Even he couldn't really, I think, make too much of news out of it, but it's so absurd that you would fire a professor for sharing what they think. You know, you're not breaking any law. You're not calling for violence. You're sharing the product of your intellectual labor, which is your thoughts, and you get fired for it. That's what you're being paid to do. And that's totalitarianism. And that's what I see coming back in a scary way. I see it coming from the right and from the left. And I see people proudly saying to me that, yes, I'm authoritarian, and I think everyone who disagrees with anything I say should be killed. And these people are calling for the death of everyone who disagrees with them. It's scattershot across not just the culture and the New Age movements. It's across all of our societies. Absolutely. Look what's going on in England and Ireland. You know, that's what our government's planning to do here too. That's what they've said it loud and clear, as clearly as they can. It's a weird. I never thought we'd be in this weird place of some kind of globalist revolution to reinstate communism with a facelift. It's really weird. And and I think one of the bellwethers for it is academic and intellectual freedom. And in America, of course, that manifests as free speech. We don't have free speech. England doesn't have free speech. Ireland doesn't have free speech, but America does. So you see the fight manifest differently there because there's very strong protections.
They did up until, there was a time when I would have said, one thing I like about America that I don't like about India is I have free speech in America, where there are certain things I can't say here without worrying about, suddenly losing my status as a person who's allowed to. And it's like, if you attended that protest, then we got your facial recognition. You were at that protest. You know what? Your status as a person who's allowed to stay here is, and they're trying to push it and push it and push it. Like you think because you were born here, you're a citizen. Yeah. You think because you're a citizen, you're protected. Yeah. Guantanamo, buddy. Or no, I guess they're sending people somewhere else now, but it seems like all the fascists,
Alcatraz.
all the fascists around the world are looking at each other like, yo, you're getting away with that. You're getting away with that. I'm going to double down. I'm just going to be more fascist,
Yeah.
It's disturbing. It's very disturbing.
Especially for those of us who still sort of consider ourselves like liberal, open-minded people, but have been told that we don't have the right to have jobs or speak anymore because of our immutable characteristics. It's like, wait, isn't that the thing we're fighting against? They're like, no, only if it's the bad people. It's like, okay, I see through this. Yeah, not gonna sign off on that. And we'll see what happens, man. We'll see. It'll be an interesting. We certainly aren't gonna have a boring few decades for the rest of our lives. It's not.
The thing, like the people who are intellectually honest cannot be controlled, because the very nature of being intellectually honest is anathema to systems of control. You have to kind of want to be accepted by the group more than you want to be intellectually honest in order to consistently stay locked in to one of these prepackaged, pre-made, groups, whether they be popular or unpopular ones. And so when it comes down to, like, tactics and strategies, it's like a losing battle. I mean, it's like the Buddhists when the Muslims came, like in India, these emperors and sultans with their armies wanting to smash idols, wanting to eliminate any competition to their one true way, came to the Buddhist university, the ancient Buddhist university, and there were just a bunch of monks there like, yes, can we help you? And they burned it to the ground and murdered everybody because they didn't have an army. So then what's the solution? To get that the Buddhists should have an army? Then they wouldn't be Buddhists, I mean, so all of us,
the central ethos
problem
with
humanity.
Power.
with organized humanity in the material world is you can either be mentally free and spiritually free and mentally honest and aware, or you can be part of a group that is either going to maintain the status quo or revolt against it. Like if you want to tear it down, you got to be fucking organized. And if you want to be fucking organized, you got to have 10 points that everybody agrees on, that everybody swears by it. If you start to veer over here, if your ideology starts to be a little different from the woke script or the revolution script or whatever script it is, then, oh, buddy, you need to come to the, whatever the fuck they call it, you need a healing, like the Christian scientists would say, or you need to come to the ethics, office for like the Scientologists say, or whatever it is. You need to come into the office and talk to the chiefs of the order, as Golden Dawn used to say, or whatever, You
heard about the No Kings protests?
Yeah.
So we had those in Canada. And it doesn't really translate because I have a lot of friends that went to those. And I was like, so why are you protesting the king? They're like, it's a protest for Trump. I'm like,
yeah, but
we
you're
have a king.
Canadian. Yeah.
We have a king. He was just here. Isn't that confusing?
But Charles is over there like, is this about me? Like, no, don't worry, sir. Have your sandwich.
You're protesting the American president to not be our king. But he's not. We already have a king. He's King Charles. And we toast him at Masonic Lodge. So he is our king. Otherwise we wouldn't toast him at Masonic Lodges. So I don't know. So that was ironic.
That's darn silly.
I mean, fortunately this timeline is funny as fuck if you have a sense of humor. It's funny. It's really funny. And the comedy is just getting better and better. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, God.
Well, it's past 1 a.m. here, man. We should probably call
it. Yeah, we'll wrap it up.
We don't want to hit that 4-hour mark. We'll break my podcast record in the future and beat the 6 hours I did with Lenny Peterson in Scotland. We'll beat that.
Nice.
If anyone could beat it, it's you and me on my podcast. I don't know what it will take. The only way he and I did over 6 hour podcast is after 3 hours we broke out the scotch, and then we kept talking. And we basically just talked about, we talked about everything, but a lot of Freemasonry. It was a lot of Freemasonry.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much for having me on to shout out
Absolutely.
the conference. And honestly, to unburden both of ourselves, I think, of a lot of baggage that we've been maybe afraid to give voice to,
or just didn't have the opportunity to, like it would be kind of out of the blue to just come on and randomly be like, I got some things to get off my chest, and but like to do it after the third hour in a conversation like this one is a good way to do it, I think. And so it's been good. I enjoyed this, and I look forward to, I'll put it up in a couple days probably. I just got to record the ending, and I'm going to go through the whole thing and bleep out the and I've got one of him in the other room.
Yeah, I'm going to watch Andor, and then we can talk about Andor when you come on the podcast.
For sure. All right. Well, cheers.
You should leave the in. That's why I don't say the first name, so it doesn't confuse him with his son.
Oh yeah, I know, but I'm gonna bleep them out anyway. Here's the rose. I mean, his son, after all, has the same name.
Yeah.
The lamp that it was lit, and then the bread and.
Oh, you set up a whole Golden Dawn Eucharist for me. I'm so touched and honored, brother. That means a lot.
Absolutely.
That means a lot.
All right. Until next time. All right. Enjoy your conference.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Peace.
Wander well, my friend.
I shall. Thank you very honored Frater RC, for being my guest today on the Esoterinerd Podcast. Special thanks to Susumu Ueda and his father and the other monks at Jofuku-in on Mount Koyasan for the music you're hearing right now. It's the same track that started the episode. Sounds different, but it changes partway through. Special thanks to Camille and Kennerly, the harp twins, for the intro and outro to the Game of Thrones that they play. And the intro and out. You just heard it. It was just now. And most importantly, special thanks to you, the Esoterinerd, looking into my eyes. So, BT, what do you think? How did I do on my first time hosting the Esoterinerd Podcast? Well, it was definitely a different kind of Esoterinerd episode. I think that you have, a unique set of skills that was just the perfect fit for this particular episode, but I don't think we should make a habit of it. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you approve. And we're going to see you tomorrow on, you're doing the Carl Jung with all the tarot cards on Chicken Philosophy, right? Tomorrow we're going up to Maharashtra, so I don't know if there'll be time. Maybe Wednesday. Oh, yeah, we're a little busy tomorrow. Okay, cool. Edward, what did you think of it? Yeah, I liked it. But what? Well, I mean, I'm just worried that now everybody's going to think that I just sit around worrying what everybody thinks. What? Did you hear what you just said? Oh, yeah, that is kind of silly, isn't it? Classic Edward. Hey, Pymander, what about you? What do you think? It's always nice to connect with old friends, and sometimes quieting the mind involves getting things off one's chest. Well, all right, so we can do end screen links. They can stay up for 20 seconds, so we'll have to run through it really quickly. BT, what should people click on? The Esoterinerd Podcast. Edward, what should people click on? Go and Gone. Well, I say they should click on Gwydion's Astral Podcast. Pymander, what should they click on? Buddhist Books Podcast. All right, until next time.